Hey, welcome to the chat. What's going on? What's going on? Let me know if you got any questions. Nobody else is over here. Throw it in the chat and I'll see what I can do. Just waiting for other people to get on right now. How's everything been going? Like I said, you got prime access right now. Let me know if you got any questions. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the exclusive equity live discussion. If you got any questions, put them in there and I'll see what I can answer to the best of my abilities based on what I can and can't cover in the public. We're just starting, so like I said, if you got any questions, throw them in there. Welcome to the chat. What's going on, Mike? How they flip-flop the roles of trustee and beneficiary on us. So that's an excellent question. The way that they do that is, well, people don't express the trust from the beginning. So the only reason that they're able to do that is when people give a carte blanche signature. or just an unqualified endorsement is another name for it. It's basically when you just sign literally just your signature, because what that allows them to do is it allows them to go in and write something after your name, a specific role, position, title. They could write guarantor, or they could write surety, or they could write any number of things. But that is how they do it. Or they could write trustee, and then they claim the beneficial interest. But the beauty of it is, if you express it from the beginning and you say by colon, the signature, and then you say either, executor and beneficiary, or grantor beneficiary, things like that, there's no room to construe it, because you took the two best, the two most important roles in the trust, or the most controlling roles in the trust, and the trustee has to answer it. That's the only title left in the trust. So now you're implying that they are the trustee because you are the grantor and beneficiary of the note. So that's the most common way that they flip the roles, is when you give an unqualified endorsement, or you don't put it as authorized representative, or something like that, or some kind of type of qualifier to protect your standing and how you are in the relationship. Yeah, it is. There's some situations where you might want to use grantor beneficiary instead of executor beneficiary, per se, just because, like for example, like court situations, there's times when, most of the time, that's better to use, because the grantor is one of the highest forms on there, but then you're still dealing with the state law, which is technically just another form of trust law, just under different terminology, but they call it an estate. But the estate is the executor is basically the legal trustee of the estate, because he carries out the decedent's wishes to grant or convey the property to the beneficiaries. So yeah, I mean, it's solid. For the most part, yeah. I mean, if you're ever in doubt, like, most of the time it's authorized representative, because all you're doing is representing the entity, and you're not being the entity. But yeah, it's kind of, you kind of have to know when to put it down. But generally speaking, it's good to put that down, but you don't use it for everything. But yeah, that's an excellent question. Some people are saying sign without always saying. Yeah, honestly, that is something that I add to it. I've studied the SSKV Act, so I know there's more than just that has to be put down. Like, my channel, for a reason, has certain reservations of rights, because when it says all rights reserved, that's only reserving the rights, which is the trust. You still have two other parts of the trust, which is titles and interest. So, and if you look at the SSKV, interest is defined as actions or interests. So what I like to do is I like to reserve all rights, titles, and actions or interests, ab initio, without prejudice, by whatever entity or person or party is reserving the rights, and the copyright symbol, and then all that, because I have done the copyrights on them. So, but yeah, without prejudice is absolutely, it's UCC 1-308, but it's not, it just alludes to the SSKV Acts. It doesn't actually cover every aspect of it. So that's why I go a little bit further. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it does get easier. Like, I know there's a couple different roles, but if you study the relationships, like, the relationships are really what because that shows the positions of the parties and the standing, who has a higher standing and things like that. So, especially when you're dealing with different law forms, because you can tell the different law forms based on the party and how they represent the pleadings. So, like, for example, the trustee is subject to the executor over the estate. So, because the trustee has to answer to the executor being a testamentary trust, and the trustee generally being, common law or commercial or some other type of trustee. So, because the trust funds most of the time are taken from estates, the executor in most situations is higher than the trustee. So, but they're two different law forms technically. So, another example is like, Bailor-Bailee relationships. Bailor-Bailee or debtor-creditor relationships. They're not the same, especially in regards to the same subject matter. Like a bailor would not have nearly as much power as the grantor or the executor or even a beneficiary for that matter, because it's just a debtor, a general. They're a creditor in the amount of a general lien on the funds or the property that they're claiming against. It's not, it's not like the same that most people would consider. So, but yeah, that's a good question. Well, you got the floor, so you got any other questions? So executor signifies the authority without the technical requirements of the trustee would be held to. It's really just the difference in law forms, because it's technically the same thing. It's all trust law. But it's who entrusts how it's recognized. Estates are the original form of trusts, because you have, how you hold the estate. You have, fiat fide uses and tenant, of the life estate. You have the remainderman, the reversionary interest that reverts upon death. So that's an example of a tenant for life, with remainder to XYZ beneficiary, because the beneficiary of the cestui use is the tenant for the term of life, and upon death it reverts back to the landlord or the owner of the property. So it's a lease and a usufruct for that period of time. Now, because of the established jurisprudence, especially in British law, that's known to be higher than the trust law jurisprudence that we currently have. The only reason why there's so much there about trust law, especially in the American common law and things like that, is because of the ongoing bankruptcies and how the estates were liable to the debts, whereas certain trusts that are foreign are not. That's the biggest benefit, about the, North America, especially within the continental, what they claim is the United States. Over here, that's the biggest benefit. But once you start going into other UK jurisdictions, like the other territories of Britannia and things like that, as they've kind of glossed over in history, you start dealing with primarily estates, and then it's mainly under the cestui v acts and things like that. So that's when the executor is still going to be the highest pretty much no matter where you are, because the birth certificate is a presumption of death. So, and that creates the legal estate. That's the original document. That's the original matrix, the bill of lading, the letters patent, the security agreement. What else is it? Letter of credit. It's so many things. It's a portal. It's a portal in and of itself. So that's kind of why, because that initial thing is a founding report. So they make you the executor over it. That's why it's the highest law form, because it's controlling everything. And then they just had jurisdictions underneath that kind of subsequently got added to it, and then they've been operating under lesser jurisdictions to avoid touching the main one. But that's essentially what's been going on. Yeah. And I mean, the executor still has its own duties. The executor is considered the primary fiduciary on the estate, so they have to pay all the debts and taxes of the estate, like same way a trustee would. So in essence, I mean, it is a trustee. It's just trustee, of a different status or a different standing in essence. Same way a fiduciary. I mean, a fiduciary is a trustee because the fid is trust, and IARY is I think it's a position of, so it's really just the position of trustee. But yeah. So let me see. Like I said, yeah. Any other questions? Obviously, feel free, because this is the perfect time. Eventually, once I get some technical things resolved, I'll be able to free up, several devices to be able to hold like guests on calls and things like that. But yeah. And so does it come down to what people say about rebutting the presumption that we are lost at sea? Absolutely. That's the main thing. Now, a lot of people have this misconception that you can just do all that and claim it and that you can't settle the entire thing. No, you can. You can. Because there's no way that they could do it without providing a valid remedy. The honest truth is most people just give up and they don't understand how it works. And they don't dig far enough. Because a kind of general gist of it is, I mean, in 1483, they stated, and this was their premise, they stated that because, in that time, when they said it in England, which is here in America, they didn't switch over to the British Isles until the mid to late 1800s, when they started insurrecting and doing certain things. So it was here in America, and they said that because there was great unsurety and no man was sure of his lands, basically they were saying everybody had a cloudy title to their properties of any type. They were saying that because we're not sure, and who's a remainder, who's got the beneficial interest, all conveyances against the cesticate uses were held as valid. Well, that might have been the case, that there was great unsurety, but what it did is that whole decree made it even worse, because now, and most of the, I mean, honestly, I think it was done with nefarious intent. It remains to be seen, but it was not a good act, because what it did is it alienated all the beneficial interests. That's what gave rise to the possession just being so heavily weighted in that 9/10 title that everybody keeps referencing, why it had so much power and weight on that possession instead of just the beneficial interest, because equity regards the beneficiary as the true owner, but in legal and law, they regard the legal owner as the true owner, which is the undoing of equity. So that started that whole thing. So that's why so many people are having so many issues with fraudulent conveyances, fraudulent mortgages, all of these things, because they were held as good in 1483, which is still upheld today. It's still enacted. It was never repealed. So that got, there were several other acts that kind of were shady, 1488, and a couple other things held by Westminster, which, by the way, was in Augusta, Georgia, and it was known as Londinium at the time, under Roman Britannia. And so then from then on, it went to the Cesticate V Act of 1540. And then it got quite different, because they enacted the Cesticate V Act of 1666. The 1666 Cesticate V Act essentially just allowed them to come in and declare everyone dead. So that cut off all beneficial interest for everyone to their own estates. And in 1535, I want to say, they seized all the estates under the guise of basically them being small religious estates under 200 pounds. So they seized all the estates, and then they declared everyone dead in 1666. Now at the same time, there were certain places that, you know, knew about it and responded to it, like New London County in Connecticut was formed in 1666. It's the same place where Colchester, Connecticut was founded later in 1690s, I want to say 1698, something around that time frame. And Colchester, Connecticut is the original Colchester, England. Then you have other places like Jordan Maxwell have stated that the old York, England is New York. If you look at the New York city seal, the NYC, you know, city seal, it'll show that on there it says Novi Iboraki, or New Iboracum. Iboracum was the Roman, one of the principal cities for Roman Britannia, and that's how it was one of the places it was kept. There's also, what else is there? There's, like I said, I already mentioned Augusta, Georgia is the Londinium. They have their own Hyde Park, just like they do overseas. They have their own river running by it. It's the Savannah River. They have Gulf Opens every year. And here in America, the original London Bridge is also out here. Although there's a bit larger story I haven't quite tapped into, because I'm not quite certain how the original London Bridge ended up over in Arizona and Lake Havasu, Arizona. It's still up to this day. They use it to this day, and it looks far older than anything they've put up over there. I mean, the technology that they had with that bridge is quite magnificent compared to other things, you know. And that's something they fool people with, is making people think that, you know, everything today is so much more, you know, technologically advanced than it was before, and it's quite the opposite. I mean, there's so many lost technologies and building methods and construction methods that are just completely, I mean, completely lost. Like, they can't build the same way. They can't do certain things. Like, you know, an example of that is like St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis has entire coliseums made of brick that they use as football stadiums today. I mean, they've got, you know, all these old houses, all these old stations, you know, all of them made by countless amounts of brick that can only be reminiscent of, you know, Egypt. Because when it, you know, I mean, when you look at how many bricks they are, and they're all baked red. So, you know, and that's the reason why I mention those things, is because it does become applicable, especially when you're dealing with SKV acts, because the modern presumption, and especially the way they change the world narratives is in regards to history and accounts of history, is they made it to where it seemed like it all took place overseas. But Europe, I mean, honestly, Texas is bigger than most of Europe. They changed and rearranged the maps to show you, but if you do the calculations, you'll find that, you know, they have very densely populated areas, and it takes a decent amount of time to get across, but that doesn't make them bigger. Like, you can going from one side of Texas to the other, if you're lucky, going 85 when the speed limit's good and there's no traffic, like, it takes you at least 8, 9, 10 hours sometimes just to get across, and that's not making hardly any stops. So, you know, they lie about a lot of things. So, you know, the SKV Act 1666, you know, you basically, you know, that's one of the ones that you have to acknowledge as well, in addition to the 1483, in addition to the 1540. And then there was another one, the one that actually made it applicable to franchises, corporations, and other businesses in general, was the SKV Act of 1707. So this is what disenfranchised people from their corporations and other things, and other quote-unquote citizenships, which also has its own remedy, similar to the 1666 and 1483. They all have their own remedy that you have to acknowledge, and then do some type of conveyance based on that. You know, this has been upheld by, like, Case Text and Thomson Reuters and other people like that, which is still enacted to this day. So yeah, I mean, these things they're still in effect. I mean, they've never taken out of place. You know, they stated that the reason why judges wear black robes is because they're honoring their dead under their gala and their Mundi occult rituals. which Latin meaning world, or mundi means world in Latin. So it goes into other things. You start dealing with like fraternal organizations and hidden hands and things like that, and certain knights service, like some of the Freemasons and things like that, especially when you get into that, because the Freemasons are the knights service as referenced by the Sesquier V Acts that hold the lands, tenements, and hereditaments in chief for the king. And someone else brought it up to me on a live. The surname is considered an incorporeal hereditament, which is what makes it fall under that Sesquier V Act, and why the birth certificate is also considered a letters patent. So, you answer those different things, but that still doesn't bring it all the way to the present, because then you have to understand how the modern mode of government is actually being handled. I mean, in the modern, like, the U.S. is a corporation, so that's stated expressly in Title 28, United States Code 3002, 15, and then it's under A, B, and C. And it says the United States is a federal corporation, and then B is like it's an instrumentality thereof. So, that is expressly says. Now, in the District of Columbia Act of 1871, they kind of made a conglomerate, a couple different cities. One was like Georgetown, I think Maryland or Georgetown in that area. Another one was was the city of Washington, or and they merged a couple cities right there and established the District of Columbia as a municipal corporation. This is upheld by National Archives. And when they did that, they attempted to repeal it. They repealed it in 1874. But what they did is they came back in 1878, and it was under the act to provide a permanent government for the District of Columbia that they stated that the seat of the government of the United States is the District of Columbia. So now you have the government of the District of Columbia having the legislative powers conveyed to the corporation known as the District of Columbia, and now they're ruling from their 10 mile square and creating franchises of that. The only issue is the District of Columbia was a private corporation held by the Crown, and it is to this day. So that's why they have case precedents. Now, there's things like Clearfield Trust Company versus United States. This particular case held that when the United States is doing business and commerce, they're held to the same commercial standard that any private corporation would be held to. They said this in that case. Another case that held similar is Hart versus Burnett in 1860, and that basically was dealing with the conveyance of land grants and pueblos and during using the Mexican government, but it basically applied to any like municipal corporation or similar standing, that they're bound to certain conveyances based on what normal corporations do. So if they act in a business capacity, they're bound to business standards. They can't claim sovereign immunity or qualified immunity or anything like that, or foreign sovereign immunity, anything. So at that point you say, okay, well, it proves it's a corporation, does that, all right, you have some things there, but then it's like, how are the Sesquier V Acts applicable? Well, in Hamilton versus Eaton, 1796, this was a North Carolina case that happened, which was 13 years after the Treaty of Paris, 1783. They basically stated that in admitting the Constitution and acknowledging that as law, they admitted that the Treaty of Paris 1783 is the supreme law of the land. This is in stark contrast to what most people think is the law of the land, which is the Constitution, which is not the case. This is why so many people get so much discretion when you assert certain things about the Constitution. It's not because the Constitution has that much power. It's because they have an agenda to keep the Treaty of Paris hidden. But, I mean, it's all public record. If you just study, but that was their, big move. But what that Hamilton versus Eaton was, somebody was suing for the recovery of a debt owed to the British, some British, either citizen or business or something like that. So, yeah, Hamilton versus Eaton, 1796. Come on. So, yeah, and like with that, so, that basically made all of the Cestui Que Vie acts applicable here, because they basically stated that British law was still in effect and it's still the law of the land. But they're not really, they're telling the truth, but they're not elaborating on, the implications of it. The implications of it were, because of the real history, the United Kingdom being here in America, and especially dealing with the Dominion of Canada, and how, the upper part of North America, like the territory is known as the United States today, and the area is known as Canada, was at some point also known as Upper and Lower Canada, because according to the treaties, you had everything above the river, was it St. Lawrence River, that was considered Upper Canada, and everything below the St. Lawrence was considered Lower Canada. But when you really look at it and look at the lines, and you kind of take out of the picture some of the other jurisdictional lines that they've placed, you start to get a whole different picture. Like, everything literally below the St. Lawrence, it extends farther than just that. It's so there was quite a bit of stuff going on, but that case essentially proved that the Treaty of Paris is still in effect. The treaty supersedes the Constitution. That, in essence, that's why people are presumed guilty instead of presumed innocent until proven guilty, because everybody's considered a trustee in breach, a trustee for the crown estate, in breach of their fiduciary duties to pay tribute to the crown estate. That's what everybody's presumed as. Now, what you got to do is rebut certain things. That's why a trust is essential, because the settlor can determine the law form of the trust, and then you can go in and re-acknowledge certain statutes, like public law 97-280, and public law 97-280 basically stated that they acknowledge that the Bible is the Word of God, excluding the New Testament, because it states, in the GPO style manual, things referenced in all capital letters are satanic, and it references certain other things. And Encyclopedia Britannica also holds that the New Testament wasn't founded or formed really, or kind of established as the Bible, with the Hebrew manuscripts until about 1514, and when the publishing of the Complutensian Polyglot Bible, which was they call it a polyglot because it was written in multiple languages, and one of those being Greek, and I believe Hebrew, the other another language. So that's what happened there. Let me see, where was I? Complutensian, that. So yeah, and they basically acknowledge that, the statutes, laws, and commandments of the Most High are law. They stated that pretty much, and congressional records, and they declared 1983 the year of the Bible. So that allows you to go in and set the real law form of the trust and ignore all of these other so-called laws, which are really just statutes and codes and ordinances of men. You just have to properly acknowledge certain things. But that's how you go in and do that. But that's just the trust aspect of it. Once you get down to that, you start dealing with, the legal estate is the all capital letter name. And then you get into the proper person, which is still it's part of the Cestui Que Vie. Then you have to settle that estate, and that's first you have to correct that capital letter name to proper case, because everything in the graveyard is in all caps. So I would challenge you to find, send me a picture if you can of a single gravestone that's in upper and lower. Like, I've never seen one. There might be one, but I've never seen it, because they heavily regulate those things. So, there's certain things you can allege. The other thing too is, like, capital letter names are considered nobodies. Now, there's a difference between a nobody and no body. A nobody is a spirit or something lacking a body or a corporeal form. The converse or the opposite, a body with no spirit or soul in it, is considered heartless, because the heart is the consciousness or the mind, the soul that operates the body. So the heartless are just empty vessels possessed by any other spirit. But yeah, the nobodies, that's what they turned most people into. Taking away the use of the bodies. And that's what happened. So, name corrections, court order name corrections have to be done. That's something that has to be done. And then after that, presumption of death. You have to record the SSKV papers and acknowledge all the acts, and acknowledge a lot of those things that I mentioned. There's also it's called a life certificate, or a certificate of life. And it's called I think in French, attestation de vida. It's either French or Latin. But it's a attestation of life. Same thing. And that document, like I said, those documents, they have stamp duties on those certain things. So there are certain excise and excise duties upon the estates that I can't exactly go over right now because they're considered private. But there are duties. Like 5 shillings today is worth like $40 to $60 or something like that. So there's certain things that you got to be handled, and they have to be acknowledged the right way, and there's a specific way to do it. Like I said, I can't cover that right now, but that's a private class type question, which I'll be going over more of that type of stuff tomorrow. But yeah, so once you acknowledge those things in the SSKV Acts, there's generally a presumption of death statute in every state. Yeah, exactly, global mindset. That's how it's pronounced or shown. So, once you start getting into that, like, there's state statutes regarding presumptions of death, and a lot of them have statutory remedies. Now, for the ones that don't have statutory remedies, there are equitable reliefs that can be obtained. Either petitioning the courts that have powers of equity, or going to a court of chancery or a court of equity that's already inherent to the locale or jurisdiction that you're, around. So, and that's like, because it's essentially, the birth certificate is a founding report. It's under the Born Alive Infants Protection Act, or BIPA, and that's under Title I United States Code, subsection 8, and it stated that humans, persons, child, infant, all those different things include those that are born alive. And it says anyone born alive means a member of the species Homo sapiens, which are hominins of the order of primates. Now, if they're of the order of primates, that means they are of the animal kingdom, which is differentiated from that which is Adam, or Adam in Hebrew. And Adam was different. There's no reference to human in anywhere in the Torah or the Tanakh, as it's known today, the Old Testament. There's no reference of it. All of it is man. And every time you see it, when you look in the Hebrew manuscripts, it's always Adam, because it's the name of the first form man. Because everyone is considered, well, most people, the people with souls, are considered descendants of Adam. So, yeah, 1933 system started. Nah, honestly though, the human thing started a little bit prior to that. But, I mean, that's when a lot of it gained, like, a little bit more force. But, that's what people, what happened. They were disenfranchising people from their inherent, statuses of life and who they are. So people started identifying with beasts, humans. And Ballantyne's Law Dictionary says human is a monster with no inheritable blood. And basically it said that if it has human shape, it may be heir. But that's really not true. That last part is not true, because it is a monster, but it's not inheritable, because when you consider that that's how they're alienating all of your interest, all of your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and all the rights to property thereof, it's really not inheritable. That's why they have it under human resources, Monster Resources, Monster Inc. So when the ancient texts were compiled and translated into English first. Well, there's a big misconception here, because English didn't derive from Latin. Latin was the language spoken by the conquistadors and the Spanish and the Roman Catholic Empire when they came over in the 1500s. Now, English is a descendant language of Hebrew, and it's only this modern commercialized English with so many different loan words that came from these Germanic and Latin and Italian languages that it became more bastardized and Hellenized to that extent. In 1514, there's a Sesquier v. Act of 1514 that I'm referencing. Because honestly, when they compiled it into English, they compiled it from Old English having a lot of the AE symbols and the other things, which were again from Hebrew. Because when they came over here under the doctrine of discovery in the 14 to 1500s, they weren't speaking English. It was the copper-colored American Indians, the real Hebrews. Webster's 1828 holds American as the copper-colored races of America. The original Indians, because over there is not the real India. That's Hindustan. Over here is the real, India. That's why all of them are so. There's so many Indians here. So, unfortunately, I'm not like taking shots at anyone, but the red dot, the Hindu Indians, so-called Indians today, are Hindustani, and they're not actually Indian. And I believe that they're more Hamitic in lineage, as it refers to Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. But yeah, no, they were compiled from older languages. It went from Hebrew to Old English to more of the modern English, because they commercialized even the only reason they went to the word you instead of thou is because you, under the Code of Federal Regulations, is an individual that owes debts to the United States, and then they determine how much and what type of debts are owed, based on that. So you is commercialized English. If you're going to speak properly, it is still thee, thy, thine, and thou. It's not hard. That's once you read enough to the 1611, the KJV, and all that, it becomes, and you understand why some of those words are not like when you always talk about you or certain things, or you don't address people with formality. Like the word you comes across very harshly a lot of times. And it's because there's so much negative energy on that word as it relates to someone that owes a debt. So, yeah. And then, like I said, you have to, because you were declared dead with the Foundling Report, being born alive, which in essence they stated in that same act under, 1 U.S.C. 8, they stated that it includes anyone that has a natural birth, a C-section, and an induced abortion. So there's no differentiating between a foundling, an aborted fetus, and someone naturally being born. And then birth itself means, in Anderson's Law Dictionary, it means abandon. So you're essentially giving title to the state of your child when you register your child on the birth certificate, because it's a certificate of abandonment, which is why they have the 1099A, which is claiming abandoned property. If you look at other tax forms around the in other countries, they don't necessarily have so much on, acquisitions of abandoned property, to the same extent. Yeah, and it really is. It gives you a way better understanding reading those old translations of the scripture. So there's a lot that happened. The process is fairly simple, but the comprehension is the biggest part. If you can comprehend it real quick, it's, that's the studying. Like, because there's, I think Michael, I think I sent you the drive already, the private library. I have a lot of that stuff in there. So, yeah, you do that. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it came about. Because you were declared dead, you have to be declared living. It said by, Queen Ravenna in the Snow White said, by Fair's blood it was done, and only by Fair's blood can be undone. Only you have the power to break the spell and destroy. And she said, destroy her. I was like, so that's, the same way you get into something is the same way you get out. Generally, you have to dissolve the original mode of binding. What's going on, Root from Deep? Welcome to the chat, everyone. Let me know if y'all got any questions. So yeah, Michael, that's what it is, though. It's a few different parts to it. It's really only like 2 suits, name change and presumption of death. But like I said, most people don't talk about this type of stuff. I've done a decent amount of it. I'm on like the last stages. I've gone through just about every freaking process out there as far as figuring out whether it does or doesn't work. There's still plenty I haven't tried, and there's plenty that do work too. Like I said, but given the amount of time I have, I'd rather just dig it up by the roots instead of letting the branches go back. So, anyone got any questions? Let me know. Put them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them based on what I can and can't cover in the public. Some things I can't cover, and I'll let you know right away. Those are the type of things I cover in my Friday classes, but everything else, we'll see. Everything else is fair game. What's going on, John? Did you ever work on inheritance? That's all this stuff is. That's all this is. Well, like I said, they blocked inheritances via presumptions of death. Your natural inheritance doesn't come from your parents. It comes from the Most High. But in that same sense, you got to acknowledge the Most High. And yes, I've probated my estate. But when I got there, they were like, how do I get in the Friday class? I have my email posted on, I think there was a post I put on my page. Is to be fruitful, like number 2 and the BE, fruitful. The letters TG as in Tango Golf at gmail.com. Send me an email, and then I have my PayPal, my Cashapp, and my Venmo. The only thing I'm asking for is $25 just to cover everything, and it's for the whole month. I'm gonna do monthly links sent out. That's how I'm gonna kind of do it, and I'm just gonna maintain the emailing list by myself. I do, because Patreon is just being stupid. They were giving me so many issues and flagging my account and doing all this, so I was like, I'm done with y'all. So I am gonna have a Signal group with that Signal Messenger. I've set it up. I got a few people in it already. I'm working on moving everybody to it. But that's where a lot of the the quick updates and some of the discussions and some of the things are going to be handled there. As kind of offline discussions, things like that, catching people up and shooting links across, and then I'm gonna just have the emailed links, on a just a monthly basis. Is for the calls and stuff like that, and then just maintaining those lists. So. Can you use the Most High as a third-party trust? Abso-freaking-lutely. I'm glad you said that. Okay, the email again, please. It's number two, BE, Fruitful, TG, as in training group, just TG at gmail.com. Absolutely. Most High, honestly, here's the thing too. This is why I keep saying this. Like, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to go after people. I know everybody is entitled to their own beliefs, but what I'm saying is you can't claim the original trust to the full extent and get the entire inheritance without acknowledging the Most High. Because think about it this way. What is the estate? The estate is the status of living or life. And in essence, it's the breath of life. So them alienating that from us put us in a state of limbo, in constant struggle, agony, strife, repentance. It was a testing ground. This is limbo. They recognize that term in law too. So absolutely, the Most High is the one that retains all beneficial interest in all things. The Most High granted and entrusted to Adam the dominion over the earth. Now, mind you, there were two creations, Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. However, Genesis 1 creation, also being called Adam in the Hebrew manuscripts, they forfeited a lot of things when they did unrighteous deeds. So because they did unrighteous deeds, them having that same name, those same titles, those same interests, and that same dominion fell to the righteous seed of Seth, of Adam. So, that's how it went all the way down the line to Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And then, you get down the line into all the nations today. Because all the souls today stem from either Shem, Ham, or Japheth. One of the three. There are some other creatures out there that look like men that are not men. I will say that. But, all the souls, they stem from those three forefathers. And subsequently Noah. So, absolutely. The Most High retains all beneficial interests. The Most High entrusted to Adam, which made Adam the trustee of the dominion of the earth. And the Most High retains beneficial interest. So that is the legal estate. That is the original dominion over the earth. That is the status of man, as opposed to the rights and privileges of a human or a monster. A lawyer can only represent the state. They literally state this in corpus juris secundum. Like, a lawyer's first duty and primary duty is to represent that of the state. So who do you think he's going to represent if it came down to his bar card or you? He spent how many years and he's in how much debt over those law degrees and that bar card? And, he's going to pick himself most of the time, unless he just wants to be defrocked. And there are some people that are willing to do that, mind you. Not very often, but there are cases. But exactly. That's how it is. So I'm glad you said that, John. It is all one trust under the Most High that got a whole bunch of sub trusts under it. Yeah. Well, they're loyal. No. It's backwards. Lawyers are loyal to their bar associations, and then they're loyal to the state. So, yeah, that's how that goes. Like, it's really, like I said, you people that claim certain things and claim New Testament, I'm like, that's entitled to that belief. I'm not gonna like shy away from telling people the truth. All I gotta do is warn people, but it is your choice. So, hey yo. Yeah, there's no lawyer that's gonna be able to help you, like, because no lawyer is gonna risk his own life and own his own soul to save yours. I haven't found anyone in particular that's willing to. Yeah. I mean, that's like I said. That's why I keep saying, if a lawyer's lips are moving, he's lying. That's why he's called a liar, a lawyer, liar. So if they can't represent you, then you got to find somebody in the equitable, knowledgeable to study and learn from yourself and represent yourself in your own matters. Represent the estate. Because what they have is they got you representing your name instead of your name representing you. That's reversion. That's the mirror, the broken mirror. So, yeah, that's what's happening. I mean, they inverted everything. They put good for bad and bad for good, bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. They turned the entire world upside down in more than one way, metaphysically too. Yeah. This is why they say you gotta trust in yourself. But there's a very large misconception with that, because people don't understand what it means to trust in yourself, because people don't understand what the self truly is. The highest and truest self is the Most High. If we as men and men and women and souls are made as images and copies, like that's what an image is. It's a likeness thereof. That's why we're not supposed to make likenesses of anything in heaven above or earth beneath, because we ourselves are a copy. We are an image. If we are made in the image of the Most High, the only time we remain in our current form is if we stay true to the original, the Most High. So the highest self is the Most High. So when they say, oh, trust in yourself and all this stuff, no, they're telling people because they don't want people to break the ego. The Most High is the highest self. You stay in tune with your highest self, you're in tune with the Most High. That's what it is. Yeah. And the reason why they had to do that with the full faith and credit is because it was such a heinous act and heinous deed that they had to swear to it. And it's the same thing with the fallen watchers. It was so horrible and so wicked what they did. They swore, 200 of them, and fell to earth, Lucifer being one of them. All of them swearing to do evil and never again serve the Most High. That's what happens. Yeah, soul self. Yeah, exactly. Because when they talk about we're all connected and all that, yeah, to an extent, but judgment is what separates. That's what separates from the good and the bad. That's what separates from the wicked and evil and the righteous. So that's the differentiation. That's where the white and the black get separated. And I'm talking about the white trusts and the white listed beings and the black listed beings. I'm not talking about color of skin. I'm talking about political status. That's all I'm talking about. Yes, it was applied to certain peoples and certain racial agendas. I'm not discrediting that either. All I'm talking about is its true meaning in reference to its original terminology. See, what people don't understand is the Antichrist is those that are proving that the Christians are the Christianity is a falsehood, and that's really what it is. I mean, all the seals breaking, that's their divination, their vision, because it's called a gospel, a good spell. It literally comes from good spell. It was a spell placed over the nations, and they have their own dreams and their own enchantments and divinations that they placed in the Revelation and all that. They took from it, out of the Old Testament. I mean, because honestly, you have so many people. You have, for one, the character known as Jesus is the name is the French corruption of I am, Je suis, which is why you have sui juris. So Je suis is I am. They took the I out and corrupted the name. So then they created an entire account or a compilation of all the Old Testament stories worshiping Lucifer, because David was the one in Psalms 22 and Psalm 69 was the one who was crucified. It said he was given the water of gall or the vinegar to drink, and off a hyssop, and then his clothes were, they parted his clothes and cast lots for his garments. They, and they did all manner of things, and they poured out his side, and his side ran out like water that was just, being pierced. and all those types of things. That was David. So, and then you have Joshua. Joshua was the deliverer. When you look up Joshua or Oshea, that's where they get Yeshua, or, you know, the deliverer, delivering the people across the Jordan. So he was a deliverer. He delivered them across the River Jordan, dealing with the land of the Canaanites here in America. The other thing is, you know, you got Enoch and Elijah. Those are two prophets that were ascended up to heaven. Those two people were, they were, you know, it says in the book of Enoch especially, you know, he was taken up and he was not. Or, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been in the Torah. But, you know, he was taken up and he was not. And he remains as a witness. So, he's still up there. And, you know, or, you know, wherever it, or however it's, you know, accounted for in the book of Enoch. But, yeah, there were those, that's what that account was. And then you have, you know, other things like Joshua 2. And talking about the 3 days in the wilderness, the 2 spies, Rahab the harlot, and scarlet threads. You know, and so there's so many accounts, you know, the book of Daniel with the beasts and, you know, the different dreams that were told. And then Isaiah, you know, the dreams in Isaiah. And all that was compiled together in Revelation. And, you know, so because there are, you know, what does the character in the New Testament say? You know, he said he's a son of God, and that nobody goes through him, you know, to the Father but him. What does the Most High say? In Isaiah, it says that, you know, I am the Most High. It says Lord, but in Hosea 2:16, it's not Lord, it's Ishi instead of Baali, which, you know, is the same title that, you know, that they have today: Baelor, Baali, Baaliff, Bailment, Baal bonds, etc. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, and that's the same thing that they have today. Well, that same thing is, you know, it's the same false god that they have. And that's, you know, I see why there's certain, because people kept blaspheming the Most High's name. Even to this day. And so that's what you have there. So you have all these different renditions, like, you know, and then Lucifer in Isaiah 14 is saying he's the son of the morning. Hillel ben Shahar in the Hebrew. So, you know, all the fallen angels having that end suffix El, which is, I believe, H430, which is Elohim, referring to the Elohim or the fallen angels instead of the Elohah or the Most High, you know, the Holy One, instead of that term God. A God is just a judge, a ruler, a title. The Most High is the highest. There is none other. So, and, you know, it's like, you know, I just think that, yeah, because, you know, it says, you know, no one, and Most High, like it said, I am the Most High, and, you know, not there, beside me is there is none. You know, I will give, you know, not give my praise to graven images. Like, I gotta go. Hold on, let me see. There we go. It says, I am the Most High, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. He's talking about, yeah, Jacob. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and they say he's a man. And it's interesting to note too that it says in Isaiah 14, especially when Most High was talking about Lucifer, he was brought down as like a man. And there's other movies that talk about these types of things: The Fallen, The Watchers, etc. You know, they account for literally certain biblical fallen angels, Semyaza and other things like that. So there are plenty of examples of that in real places. Yeah, I think it's Isaiah. Oh, you might be right. It might be Isaiah 43. Isaiah 43. Oh, Superman is just Satan. It's just one of the Satans. Satan is a plural term. That was referenced in the GPO style manual. It said devil's advocates is right there with him. Isaiah 43. And 11. Oh, here we go. Even I am the Most High, and besides me there is no Savior. So yeah, you're right. 43. So Most High stated, there's no agency, there's no glory to another. So you got somebody in the New Testament stating that, you know, this character, he's stating that you got to go through him to get to the Most High, and the Most High saying there's no other Savior but only the Most High, you know, directly. So you know, you have two contradicting things. Therefore, the derivative cannot be from the same source, because if the derivative is from the same source, you know, it wouldn't be, you know, in terms of authority, it would be compliant with the source as agent on behalf of the principle, and as such it can't be. So the other thing is, Jesus, that character in the New Testament, states that he is the bright and morning star in Revelation. Well, that's the same thing that they say, you know, Lucifer, son of the morning, in Isaiah 14. And he was also a son of God. Well, what are the angels called? Sons of God, Elohim. So, dang. I don't know if that cut out. Hopefully it doesn't cut out. But yeah, you know, the sons of God were also called, you know, Elohim. You know, the fallen angels. That was the name in Hebrew for them. So Joshua means, it doesn't mean a joke. Honestly, Joshua actually refers to Oshea. Oshea in the Hebrew is deliverer. So, because he delivered people across the Jordan. So yeah, that's what that refers to. I mean, and most people aren't aware of that, but they can't articulate it either. So they're stuck in limbo in their head and stuck between this thing. You know, I was like that for a long time, but like, I honestly, all I did was just ask the Most High, you know, what do I call you? How do I call thee? Like, and the Most High gave me the answer. Exodus 3:14. You know, I am that I am. Thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, and it's not Israel, it's Yeshurun. You know, as seen in, you know, like other verses, it states that. So you know, thus thou shalt say unto the people of Yeshurun, you know, I am hath sent me unto you. Which is, when you look at I am, it's Haya, or Haya. I am that I am, to come to pass, to bring forth. Man, that is so annoying. Yeah. So, and that's what that means, you know. So I apologize, I should have. But yeah, that's what that is. You know, and people just don't know, you know, it's Exodus 3:14, I am that I am. Haya. That's the name of the Most High. You know, it said, this is my name forever. You know. So that's, yeah. People aren't aware. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? It can be about scripture, it can be about law, cases, equity. Let me know what y'all want to talk about. I really do this to, you know, I know I have a lot of content in my videos, but it can get very overwhelming, especially if you're just going after and reading and watching, or, you know, and you don't, there's a lot of discussion that has to kind of solidify certain things sometimes. Hey, all praises to the Most High. All praises and glory to the Most High. That's all I can say. Because I wouldn't even be here. I'd have been long gone, man. Long gone. The amount of different experiences that I've had. Yeah, I'm grateful to even be among the living. Honestly. John, I can't answer that right now. You're onto it, but I can't answer that. Ask me tomorrow, I'll give you the answer, but not right now. Yeshua. It does, actually, yeah. It does. Well, when you think about it too, the meanings Oshea and being deliverer and issuer, they have a similar meaning as far as what happens, like ascending out or ascending forth. So, I mean, yeah, I could see that. Sheesh. Yeah. I mean, if you can answer it, that's cool. I can't talk about it in the public right now. I can't talk about it. Roots run deep. I just can't. That's the area. Tap out. Private only. UCC 5-108. I'm gonna have to go look that up. What is that? I'll be honest, I spent so much time in exclusive equity that UCC was something I did my best to avoid, in a sense. Just because I don't like merchant law, and merchant law is still not completely great. I know enough to, be able to operate in certain things, but I wouldn't say that's my expertise. Oh, issuer's rights. Okay. Got it. Get off. Alright, so except as otherwise provided in section 5-109, an issuer shall honor presentation that, as determined by standard practice referred to in subsection E, appears on its face strictly to comply with the terms and conditions of a letter of credit. Dishonor the presentation, appear to still comply. The issuer has reasonable time after presentation, but not at beyond the end of the 7th day. Oh, yeah. It does have that same connotation in a sense, yeah. And the birth certificate is something that's considered a letter of credit. So yeah, I mean, it seems to be the same. Yeah, issuer's rights. Yep. Because I look to get out via the highest law form possible. And there's literally no higher authority than the Most High. That's where all the 7 states. What you mean the 7 states? You talking about 7 seals being the 7 states or something like that? The 7 states of being or something? I don't know what you're talking about. That's interesting though. Yeah, let me know y'all's questions. Like I said, I can't go over that part. That other thing I meant, I'm not even going to touch it. That's tomorrow's class. I'll tell you the answer tomorrow, honestly. I was going to cover it anyway, but yeah, that's tomorrow. If we use the code when signing UC 3-4, let's double check. Chakras equal seals. Oh! I didn't think about that. You're right. They are the 7 chakras. That makes sense. The unsealing of the chakras is the unsealing of the... Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, I would say that's right, Michael. 3-402. Let me see. 3... Unlock the chakra fullness of life. Yeah, you're right. I'm telling you, I'm at a point where I can see chakra and ether and chi and all that. So I know you're not lying. Was it 5-402? 3-402. 3-402. Signature by representative. Oh, this is authorized rep. Oh yeah. Authorized signature of the represented person. Yeah, this is, well, it just depends, because even the authorized representative, you still want to reserve rights and be without prejudice, because prejudice is just prejudice is no good. It's just prejudicial action. That's what a prejudice is. But yeah, the authorized rep code is amazing. I just wouldn't use the actual code. I would just say authorized representative. But yeah, that is a good one, Michael. Yeah, honestly, that is a real good one. I do. I'm glad you brought that to my attention, because I really wouldn't have thought about that. I just don't mess with that NT stuff no more. Like I said, prime time. Let me know y'all's questions. I'll answer what I can in the public. If y'all got, case questions, we'll see if we can touch on those. If you got equity questions, relationships, managing different presumptions, things like that. There's a few different things we can cover other than, certain things. Absolutely. So one of the biggest things is the government openly states that they worship Lucifer. It's kind of quite obvious once you get past to a certain point. It does, and that's the idea. It's kind of a stopgap measure. I mean, it is what's in their merchant law, but it's not the high. All rights, titles, and interests, actions or interests reserved ab initio without prejudice. If you could go back, what would you have done for your first step in protecting yourself? I mean, I'm grateful. I actually did everything in the right order. I just had a whole bunch of bogus processes that kind of hemmed me up. And ultimately, it just kind of led me to getting out the right way. And I'm not mad. I mean, because when I really consider that it just brought me to the right thing, yeah. I'm not, like I said, I'm not mad, because it taught me about the presumption of death. And the birth certificate is not this glorified golden ticket. It's a dang death certificate. Like, managing offices. So managing offices comes back to maintaining diligent records. Something that it comes from basic, like, just organization. You have to really be on top of your stuff. It's something that's very simple, but it's not taught in school. It's not, unless you go to like business management or, some type of Ivy League or, law school, like, or certain, just different. There's some type of private classes that they talk about it, but it's not something common per se. You have to maintain like specific and separate accountings and records, like especially with dealing with minutes. Like, an express trust is akin to, let's say, a nonprofit or a corporation in the sense that it still has meeting minutes. It's still accountable to its beneficiaries instead of being accountable to the state. That's, you really have to maintain, like, everything very specifically. It's, you keep, when you don't commingle. So like, let's say you do something for a trust and things like that, or an office like executor office, or even just an LLC, you maintain that record and maintain those system of records for all together. You keep it all compiled in its own particular place, and you organize it. And that's the only way, because if you can't prove it, if you can't pull it out and all that, and you have the record but you can't find it, it doesn't do you any good. I mean, it just doesn't. So you have to make sure that you really do take the time to, and I know sometimes it gets a little bit more pressing than others, but you still got to maintain that system of records. And that's what it's essentially like, being your own scribe. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's a lot of work, like, because you got to maintain your own copies of everything, and you got to look at, you got to do a lot. Like, you got to wear like 10, 15 different hats at the same time, and know how to switch between the two, or to switch between all of them. So, you got to know when to act in this capacity. You have to know when to act in this capacity. You have to know when to take these records. You have to know when to disperse these records. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to know what you can and can't disperse in the public. Like, especially with trust, there's hardly any duty to disclose really anything when it regards to validly set up trust. There's a duty of confidentiality. There's a duty of privacy on behalf of the trust. Confidentiality basically just meaning confidence, or the state of having trust. Con meaning with, or the title of rulership. Fid meaning trust, or fidere in Latin, trust. And then ence, E-N-C-E or A-N-C-E, being the state of. So it means the state of having trust. So confidential means of or relating to the state of having confidence. Or, of or relating to the state of having trust. So, but the GPO style manual, this is where it specifically states it. This is out of here under chapter 3.35, religious terms. It says words denoting the deity except who, whose, and whom. And by italicizing it, they're implying that who, whose, and whom are separate deities. But continuing. Names for the Bible and other sacred writings and their parts, names of confessions of faith and of religious bodies and their adherents, and words specifically denoting Satan are all capitalized. And then when you look further down, the very bottom of the examples, it says right here, Satan, the devil, but a devil, the devils, plural, devil's advocate. I didn't write this, they did. And just to prove it to everybody, I'll go all the way back to the top. Authenticated U.S. government information published by the Government Publishing Office. So this is out of the horse's mouth. They worship Lucifer because why do they put everything in all caps? That's their doing. That's how they administer everything. They do that. What is a good resource about managing offices? Yeah, self-governance. Yeah, and that's what it is. I mean, they openly state that they worship the fallen angels because, like I said, Satan is a plural term referencing 200 fallen angels, just like it talks about in the book of Enoch. And the devil's advocates are their sons. So there's a reason why certain lawyers and all those things and bar attorneys are referenced as devil's advocates. It's not to be facetious. It's not to be joking or snide. It's being literal. So that was an excellent question. Good resource. If you want to learn about managing offices, look up Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order covers how a meeting is carried. Now, yeah, when you look up Robert's Rules of Order, it talks about how when a meeting is, a quorum, what it takes to have a quorum. Generally, it takes like 3 to 5 people for a quorum to be held. Once you have a quorum, how a motion is brought forth. Initially, a motion is proposed, then a motion is seconded. Once it is seconded, there's usually a vote, especially with equal standing boards, or especially the boards of trustees or boards of directors. And, well, shoot, devil's advocate, that's just what they are. I mean, you gotta call it what it is. But, yeah, and so, the motions and seconds, and once it seconds, it carries. Then they hold a vote, yay or nay. If it passes the vote, it gets put into the, passed according to the meeting minutes. And then the meeting, it's jotted down in the meeting minutes, and then it's published thereof for the body or the entity. that's the standard practice when regards to like equal standing members of the same organization or board, or representing thereof. So yeah, bar stands for barratry, in my opinion. Yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah, it does bars from a grand jury. Well, you have to remember too, it's supposed to be a jury of your peers. They've got so many different statuses of people that there's no equal standing, and they're not gonna bring a jury of your peers because it would overthrow the court. The jury would be higher than the court, and then you start letting people know about stuff. They're not gonna allow that. That's why like I said, the Constitution is not the highest law of the land. That's why I don't really dabble in too much in constitutional law, although I do pay attention. I know how to articulate some things, but that's not what my primary focus is. Like Treaty of Paris, SSKV, presumption of death, rebutting Roman presumptions, things like that. But yeah, Robert's Rules of Order is an excellent resource. That's what I would say for figuring out how to run an office. And then understanding how ledgers work is the other aspect of it. Maintaining, being able to prove every deposit, being able to prove every aspect under the ledger. If you kind of internalize that and understand that and kind of keep that together, you're creating trust every time you do anything in the public. So yeah, that's what I would say. And then so yeah, any other questions y'all got? I'm liking the questions y'all are getting. I'm liking them. Like I said, y'all got some pressing things going on that you weren't sure about or something, and you got an aspect of something you were looking into and you just need another thoughts on that. Let me know. Head is our arch treasurer. Kind of, but you gotta know how the soul is considered ecclesiastical goods under the SSKV Acts and dealing with the ordinance of William the First or William the Conqueror, separating the courts, spiritual and temporal. All of these courts dealing with governments and politics and the properties and things like that, those are secular courts. The bishop holds the temporal courts, the spiritual courts. The temporal are the secular courts. So the bishop is actually the head dealing with the spiritual side of things. That's where it ultimately goes. But you gotta, like I said, equity follows the law, so you've got to follow, the statutory remedy, and then look for the equitable relief as well. And then garnishment, yeah. Let me see. How do you stop a garnishment? It comes down to jurisdiction, whether they can even bill something or not. Because to be able to bill somebody, you have to have some level of jurisdiction. Because if you can't serve somebody, or you don't have the rights to collect a debt, it changes things. Are you talking like child support or something like that? Child support is unconstitutional. Now that's the time you allege certain things about the unconstitutionality of it, because there's precedent regarding so. Not a criminal case. Okay. Federal case. But what is it though? Is it like child support? Is it like felon? Like what? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Garnishment can happen for a lot of reasons too. Oh, criminal federal case. Oh, okay. In that case, I mean, a lot of times in criminal cases, you're dealing with jurisdictional issues. And bank fraud. Well, now, was it something you did, or is it something that just kind of happened? It's like a process that didn't go quite right, or like. Bank fraud is pretty serious. I don't know how that arose. Because like I said, if it was something that you were lawful, that was the charge. Was it like a process that you did? Did you like bounce a check or something? Like, how do you handle bills? I can't answer that right now. I can talk about it tomorrow. I can't answer that right now. I apologize, RT. That's a private equity weekly workshop question. But I will talk about that tomorrow, so just bring that up tomorrow. Yeah, roots run deep. I'm not sure. Like, never ratified here, so park the Initio offshore. Here's the thing, too, though. Like, the District of Columbia Act makes it a private corporation, but they don't have ties to the land like the Republic did. They abandoned the Republic in 1871, which is why they stopped making treaties with the Indians that same year. So, you know, there were no treaties passed in 1871. You know, and honestly, it wasn't ratified. That's why they made it all private contract, to say, oh, you ratified this signature, this contract individually, and they made everybody their own state, their own e-state. But to do that, like, you know, yeah. Honestly, the entire point of the 14th Amendment, it's dissolving the citizenship or the person. That's the presumption of death, like I said. But you don't really, I mean, you do kind of touch on it somewhat, but you don't, it's not the main point. Because like I said, there's older law forms in the Constitution. I mean, yeah, that's what I've been talking about. Although people don't know what the Republic is, you have to know what it is and how it's spelled and how it's formed. I went over that last Friday, and I have it in the replays. So that's why BCs are treaties. They are, but the problem is it's not a beneficial treaty. Not for you. It benefits everybody but you, because it's a presumption of death at the same time. So why would you ratify a treaty basically stating that you're dead? Doesn't make sense. Because yes, it has full faith and credit, yes, in certain things, but it's full faith and credit with you as the guarantor. You are the surety for it. So why would you ratify it? Any other questions? I'm grateful for everyone on here. I'm thankful, and like I said, y'all have excellent questions. I just want to make sure that, you know, I'm able to answer all that I can, really. So, can you correct the record? Absolutely. Honestly, the biggest thing is you have to separate from the capital letter name, because they don't want to give up their interest, and you have to basically wind it up and dissolve it. So, like I said, one of the ways is dissolving, like, or you know, correcting the status via the name correction or name change, because you already saw how capital letter names are satanic, and you can change your name for any lawful reason. Spiritual beliefs being one of them, and we already just talked about how they're satanic, so you can allege that and prove that. Because I don't subscribe to anything satanic. I ain't going for it. I'm not here to play in La La Land or fiction. I'm a real man with real needs. Why am I gonna put on this dang mask and pretend to be somebody else? Yes. Here's where it goes into esoteric stuff. Because I did notice your channel name's in all caps too. But yeah, that's it. It always does. Because think about it, it's a civilly dead entity anytime you write anything in it. Because it ceases to be English. It becomes a symbol or a token. A symbol meaning, it's got certain characters that identify a certain meaning other than the written language in English. That's why it represents that. Because it also being associated with the dead, it represents things in, the realm of the dead. So that is the broken mirror. The capital letter name is the broken mirror representation of the first, middle, last name, which even that is a fiction of law, because you can't put your first, your given names before your surname. You're capitalizing on your family, and as such separating yourself from them. That's what turns the name into a fiction. Let's just say that the birth certificate says John Henry Doe, right? First, middle, last. Yeah. Well, the Caps is a corporate prisoner. First, middle, last, the way it's written, is the entity. Because so the true name for John Henry Doe would be Doe, John Henry, in all lowercase. Or Doe, John Henry. Right. Only dead have last names. Everybody, but the surname is differentiated from the last name. Last names denote the entities, and surnames denote houses or titles of honor. That's good to know. Forename. Although that goes back to the old English. We deal with all this stuff and it's all bastardized today. It's commercialized. So yeah, probably should be forename, but for meaning, prior or first. But yeah, I can definitely see that. So awesome questions, yo. Let me see. Yeah, like I said, whatever y'all want to go over. First name, family of name. It's like that's not the right way to do it, because like I said, you're introducing yourself before your family. Your family preceded you. Now you're trying to precede your family. That's capitalization. You're capitalizing on your family without having to spell it out like that. You're essentially capitalizing on your family. That's why it can't be any time first before last. That's why Tammy Peppermint, she said she never wanted to use the last name, partly because I don't think she knew how to do it. But I know she was doing it to the best of her understanding, but the colon denotes a part of. When you look in the etymology, it denotes a member or a part of something. So when you do, like I said, Doe, John Henry, with a hyphen in John and Henry. John Henry is one word or one name, as the hyphen combines the two. Then you just have a surname and first name, which is, and the colon is denoting that the first name with being in the proper order, is a member or a part of the surname. So that's why it's written with the hyphen and colon. Means we left the U.S. It depends on what type of national you can be. You can be a U.S. national, you can be a foreign national, you can be... Nationality just refers to, someone owing permanent allegiance to a state. Well, it depends on who that is. Like, I chose the Most High. Why am I going to pledge allegiance to a corporation when I should be pledging all allegiance to the Most High? It doesn't make sense. I've put that in my documents. Like I said, I serve the Most High. So we already expected to anyway. So might as well do what we're supposed to. Yeah, I see you over there, one wise lady. Peaceful inhabitant. What if you don't have a middle name? That's even better, honestly. That's a higher status than not having a middle name. Although, being honest, the you don't have to do the hyphen per se. You still have to do the colon. Like, for example, instead of Doe, comma John Henry, it would just be Doe colon John. And like I said, it would be a higher status than having a middle name and having to correct all that nonsense. Be grateful. Actually, you just have less to deal with. You have less derivatives to deal with, less things to worry about. Now you just have one-to-one, the correct image on the real man and the inverted image on the entity. So, yeah, you don't got to worry as much. Peaceful inhabitant, yeah. Thank you, because I don't have one. Hey, I'm glad you asked. I know some people don't. Some people don't believe in a middle name. I wish my parents had thought of that. But, it is what it is. Like I said, that's the entire reason for the hyphen. All it does is join the first and middle together and bring it back to one first name, and then changing the status to a surname and a first name instead of, like other, with two given names, which makes you an entity also. And then, like I said, the colon just denoting between the surname, surname colon first name. And that's how yours would be, Roots Run Deep. So, yeah, it's not a bad thing. Don't worry about it. It might take a little bit to wrap your head around certain things because certain people are talking about 3 derivatives instead of 2. But, yeah, it was a great question. So, like I've heard about that before. I've definitely heard about that. So, yeah, I'm glad, man. I'm so glad. Y'all have some amazing questions, amazing comments. I'm grateful. I really am. Yo, let's see what else y'all got. Let me see. Cause, man. Like I said, prime time. Any other questions? Alright, thank you, Global Mindset. I did my best. How about the live life claim style, John? I just don't like the way that it's connected to, what is his name? What is the quantum grammar guy, that attorney? What is his name? Oh shoot, I forgot his name. It's not David Clarence. David Wynn Miller, there we go. I just don't like how it's connected to David Wynn Miller because in particular, his writings in regards to the quantum grammar, he copywrote those. So while yes, it is technically correct, grammatically, he copywrote the whole language. So nobody else can use that language. So the only thing you can do is, like I said, you can use the hyphen and colon for the beneficial signature. Like there's other people that talk about that, like Christian Walters, or excuse me, I think Christian Walters did, but Christopher Hauser. Oh yeah, I track it down in all derivatives. Hold on, RT. I gotta check your last comment. What are you talking about in reference to, RT? Though, like I'm not sure. You talking about like the hyphen and colon and derivatives and all that? Like they know about all the derivatives. They have an accounting of every last penny and every last dime you've ever spent and ever sent through any of the Social Security numbers, EINs, SSNs, ITINs, you name it. They have a master accounting record, individual master file, business master file. Look them up. FOIA and PA requests. So, they got those records. They are the accountants for the Treasury. They know where all the money went. Yeah, they know where it all went. Like to freak out and say, oh, they're tracking me and all this stuff. They've been known ever since it was digital. Ever since all of that, they've known where all of it's went. I mean, they've been using Al Capone's playbook since they busted him in what 30s, 20s, 30s, something like that. Privacy Act, FOIA and Privacy Act. So, yeah, like I said, and it's not hard, a lot of those things, but like I said, they do help improving your cases, but they're not, to be honest, they're not essential. If you know how to properly get the records and get the other things that prove the historical narrative and prove the lineage and chain of title and how everything went, you can still prove it without a lot of those different records from IRS and SSA and all that stuff. They probably have a part in it, but like I said, all roads lead to court. All roads lead to court. So you got to go to the court to get things established. And you got to seal the court record if you're going for the whole thing, because they will not address. And you know, I wouldn't allege trade secrets. I would allege trust. So yeah, everything, not everything. They try to make it all commercial. Not everything is commercial. That's just how everything's construed to be in the public. There are some things that should validly stay private, and some things that just remain in the public. And you know, the IRS, they do hold the accounts. Like there's an aspect to it, you know. But like I said, it's not the only place that you have to deal with. So, you know, there's other stuff you got to do after. So yeah. Great questions, y'all. Great questions. I'm grateful. Yeah, so it's not as hard as people think. Like, it's really just the mind. If you can free your mind and open your mind and think outside the box and start asking questions, if you can ask questions like a child, you can figure it out. But that's most people's challenges, because most people can't. Most people forgot their inner child, and they got disillusioned with life. And that's the ego, and the inner child is their true self. So the fiduciary 56 is the way to go along with the 56F. I mean, yes, but it depends on the situation. It's definitely a key part, but you got to administer it properly. Because all it does is create a fiduciary relationship, which is just a trust. So, but you have to understand the underlying power behind it, which is the Powers of Appointment Act of 1951. And that act basically detailed that the powers of appointment, especially that of a fiduciary, is a taxable appointment, meaning when you appoint somebody, they got a tax liability, and that's a very scary thing to people that are doing their best to avoid every bit of capital gains. Where to learn ABCs? It's kind of a collection of different things. Like Christian Walters has talked about it. Other people, I've talked about it before. It's the rule of three. It's like I said, it's in reference to the New Testament, which is a banking. It's a banking spell. That's really why I don't like it as much, because it's how they're alienating everybody's estates. Because like ABCs is rights, titles, and interests. 1099 A, B, and C. What else? The three crowns: John Henry Doe, John H. Doe, and John Doe. Those are the three crowns. Now, if you don't have a middle name, you don't got to worry about one of those. You just got two to deal with, and that's a higher status. You were never put in one of those lower ones. So, you know, you just got the all caps and upper and lower, and then you got to revert it. And it's still technically three crowns, but when you think about it, yeah, the 1099s, yeah, those are heavily involved in a lot of things. Like I said, I'm not really going to get into that too much, just because but just, you know, everything is a tax issue, yes. Everything is a tax issue. But yeah, the ABCs is, like I said, is the rule of three. You have the rule of two and you have the rule of three. And if you can see them, you know, how they correspond and correlate with everything, You can tell. So yeah, I'm grateful for all these questions. Glad y'all are asking the right ones. So yeah, honestly, like the biggest thing is, like I said, just managing relationships. Like, managing relationships is probably the biggest thing. And when you understand what it really entails, you're able to manage not just business relationships, but you're able to, thank you, Roots Run Deep. But when you manage business relationships well, like it translates to every aspect of life, because you see the similarities, you see how the things are actually supposed to go, and then you're able to teach other people. And then when their understanding increases, expectations get clearer, and you start dealing with the people of a higher level, and you start getting different levels of results in life in general, in business and family, because family is a business. It's building up a kingdom, a dominion, empire, same thing. Just different aspects of it. So it translates to the same things. Like, the skills that you learn, and especially in self-governance, it directly leads to your happiness, whether you know it or not. Being diligent and organized, and managing certain things, and managing excellent relationships, it directly translates to household, family, marriage, associates, close ties that you have, family and other people that like, it really does help a lot. You see a lot of different things. It does expose a lot of people, and you stop dealing with certain things, certain levels of BS, but it's not a bad thing. It's just changes you got to make. Correction isn't a bad thing. No one's above correction, not even myself. So, because life is a process of learning, because the entire experience is to gain the knowledge and wisdom and understanding and experience that directly translates to the soul. It's the only thing you take with you. Yeah. Any other questions? What woke you up? Oh, well, I'll be quite frank. Well, I started from a very different aspect. I was homeschooled. I was raised, I'm grateful, and it was a good environment for some things and not so great for others. I was, pretty... I'm grateful for the circumstances I grew up with, and I know I had a lot more than other people are given, I just had a very curious mind and intuitive mind, so I asked a lot more questions than my parents could give me answers for. I started learning about the truth, from certain people when I was like 16, and changed my entire paradigm. So there was a lot of conflict in my last years of school and all that. Thank you. But it caused quite a lot of conflict. I was I was a big fool, honestly speaking. I was a big fool. I thought the world was sunshine and rainbows, and I didn't realize you had to put in the work to make it like that, to create your own reality. I wasn't aware of that. So, I got married at 18, kind of partly not knowing any better, not having anyone to talk to, being homeschooled and stuck. And after that, I wasn't able to tell who I was with. She cheated on me, so we went and filed for divorce. Shortly after that, I found out that when you file for divorce, the court construes you to be, or the man to be, the decedent under the insurance policies on the court case on the bonds, and the woman to be the widow of the policy. And that's the reason why they come after the man so much, especially under child support and other things, even though they know that you're living. I had found that information from like reference from like a judge that spilled the beans or something like that, and somewhere in the public. I can't even recall where it was, but it is true. And I was like, I'm not going for that. So I rescinded my signature from the marriage license. I sent notice to the county and state. After that, I waited. I left it alone. It wasn't until she came to sue me later to actually terminate the relationship that it was good. It had its ups. Like I said, I was taught how to run things. I was an Eagle Scout. I'm a black belt in Shaolin Kempo karate. Like, I know a few different things. I've given presentations in front of hundreds of people. I was taught how to run organizations. I was taught all types of stuff. Most people don't get that opportunity, and I'm very grateful. I understand that, I was privileged in that aspect. But like I said, I was very deeply, discontent with the spiritual aspect of my upbringing. So it led me to continue on in my path. You do under that right of rescission, but it only starts after you realize it, really. Because fraud vitiates everything and has no statute of limitations. So I mean, I got to that point and I rescinded my signature, and I got once she finally sued me, I brought it up to the court's attention. The court agreed with me because I pressed them, and at the same time I pressed them, I requested an audit with the IRS on the case bonds, and at that time they didn't know what to do, so they granted me it was called an agreed decree of annulment. And it was, me and her attorney went back and forth until we finally agreed on the terms that were favorable to me. And then I was able to go in and get that handled, and they conveyed to me part of my estate. By that time, I had already probated my estate and got one of the estates back. So, I'd already changed my name and done a couple things. So, I did that. So that's ultimately what woke me up, was that whole process. I mean, it was painful. It sucked, but it was my fault, and I learned a lot from it, and I won't make the same mistake. Because I know about a prenuptial agreement and trust agreements now. So there's a reason that they have them. That's how the man can still issue bills of divorce instead of the judge. Just being honest. Not for U.S. citizens, though. So yeah, and that's essentially what woke me up. Like, just having that pain and all that gave me some pretty clear eyes, honestly. What does it look like getting one estate back? You got a title or a status, but like I said, until you get all the funds back, it's really not like this big hurrah. I mean, it's still an accomplishment, but it's like you got to go all the way to get everything you want. Trying to be halfway in and halfway out, it don't get you anything. All they got, that just means they still got a grip or a hold on you. What's going on, Niles? Yo, good to see you. Yo, why the name change to it? But the name change, it's really more of a name correction, but you want to do it through a court-ordered process. However they handle name changes in your local area, if you can get it done in the birth county, even better. But if not, get it done where you're able to. All you need is proof that the upper and lower name is your name instead of it being in all caps. It's basically acting as a bill of reviver, or a reviving of the dead body, allowing you to come in and reclaim your estate. That gives you the rights and status. Now, all caps is capitis diminutio maxima. This is when you have the most comprehensive loss of status, meaning loss of citizenship, the right to property, and the right to family. Media is when only the last name is capitalized. I see this commonly in a lot of appeal suits, in certain places. Then you have capitis diminutio minima, which is proper case, first, middle, last. This is not the end-all be-all. Proper case is not how you're supposed to spell your name. This is only for titles and fictitious, entities and things like that, or trusts per se. Trusts can, proper trust or proper case. But even then, real people, real men and women, are in all lowercase. Capitis diminutio nolo, or no loss of status, no diminishment of status. Because capitis is the head, diminutio is diminishment of or loss of status, and then nolo is none. So no loss or diminishment of the head, or the head rights, the rights to make decisions for the capital or the capital city, for the nation. So exactly, RT, exactly. That's how it's supposed to be. Exactly like you put it right there. Surname, colon, space, first name, hyphen, middle, or surname, colon, given with the hyphen. That's how it's supposed to be. And that's the no loss of status in any way. And the reason why is because when you look up taxonomy and classification of animals, now given they're all in Latin per se, and do you have capitals in the, I mean, generally speaking, yeah. If you're going to be in the public, you have to have it. Everybody's bankrupt. The corporation can only pay you in all capital letters. So, because they're what? Letters of credit. They owe you. So you created a debt when you work. So, yeah. You have to. That's why when you get out all the way out, you can't work no more. Even if you wanted to. Not in the public. Not in the public. You can work for yourself. Work for private entities that aren't public, private express trusts and things like that, outside the United States, on the land and soil. But yeah, I mean, like when you look up taxonomy and classification of animals, for example, human under hominin. Hominin is commonly spelled in all lowercase, and it's of the order of primates. So it has its own family, its own classification, its own order, its own phylum under a specific kingdom. So it's been classified. However, it's under the kingdom of animals. So when you reference the real man having a higher status than animals is still in lowercase, but it falls back under Adam, or Adam in Hebrew. With derivatives, which name to change to proper case. Like I said, because proper case is capitis diminutio minima, or least comprehensive loss of status, meaning it has the rights of citizenship and right to own property, but it's changed with respect to its family. This denotes a living estate instead of a decedent's estate. Now, it's still kind of alienating it from the original and creating a separate estate, but it's still tied to a living body, which is why it's considered that. And for lack of a better term, that's what I've been calling it. Just a living estate, because it's not a decedent's estate. So that's what it goes back to. And then the all lowercase name has to claim the proper case name. That's why I did the Sestike V papers. Yeah, the name change and names correction is from caps to proper case. But like I said, that only changed the corporation. Changes it from a 14th Amendment citizenship to a corporation sole. Once you have the corporation sole, capitis diminutio nolo has to claim it. The real man. So that's how you have to go about that. Most people don't know to go that far. Most people don't know how. Like I said, if it wasn't for certain people correcting me and things like that on my channel and comments and other things like that, I would have never known. But I'm like I said, I'm grateful because she told me that, and I was like, all right, well, I looked it up. Sure enough, it's true. So I'm grateful. But yeah, that's what the whole game is. That's the name game. Most people only make it to proper case. Like I said, I wanted completely out, and I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. because I don't want my name in the book of the dead. Yeah, pretty much RT. All caps, upper and lower. Well, like I said, not just changing it to that. Once you get it to proper and then dealing with the real has to claim the proper as property, not being the real. Not being the proper, being the real. You are the real, claiming the proper. Because what is it? It's a proper case, right? Is a proper case. Talking about in all proper cases when they reference that, that's what they're talking about. It's still a court case. It's not the real man. It's a fiction of law. It's a person. The real man is what the fiction has to represent. But it has to represent you because you have to own it. It is all banking. I mean, yes and no. But you have to understand what type of banking you're doing. There's trust deposits and special deposits, and there's general debtor-creditor deposits. So with a general deposit, the title gets passed to the bank or the depositee. And then the depositor has a general lien on the funds of the depositee, not to receive the original deposit or the original note back. Just an equal credit balance in equal amounts. Now, the difference being trust deposits or special deposits, the identical note or the identical thing deposited has to be returned to the depositor. So trust banking is different than Baylor-Bailey relationships under debtor-creditor. That's what they're different. That's why I don't really talk about private banking too much. I talk about trust merger. It is private banking, but it's a different type. Yeah, excellent question, sir. Excellent. So, yeah, let me know. Any other questions? Anything else? Resource for what? About banking or trust banking? Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's really okay. Honestly, it's really just being the executor or the trustee, because you already have to bank, just doing certain things. All banking is moving currency and funds from one place to another. That's what banking is. It's routing, moving, directing the flow of current. Technically, the executor having to pay the duties and having the ability to direct the trust assets and state assets and res, he technically is a banker by himself. As I don't know, I'd like to differentiate it too, because there's a difference between having a bank per se in the public and operating, privately, using trust merger of titles and settlement, closure, and termination of debts and extinguishment of debts. There's a very big difference. Now, public banks, or even quote unquote private banks, are still public, because private banks being that they're debtor-creditor relationships based on a specific entity. Now, blockchain. See, with the blockchain, that's just US dollar coin. It's been out. I'm aware of that. They got plenty planned for January 1st, and I plan to be long done by then. I'm not worried about that. you know, because it's just a waste of time to worry about it. It's better spent doing stuff. So you know, with banking, it's like, yeah, like I said, you're doing kind of. Like I said, the executor is the fiduciary. The trustee has the power to pay the debts of the estate. He has the obligation to pay the debts of the estate. The trustee has the right to pay the duties and debts of the trust itself. The trustee also has the obligation to pay the trust debts and obligations. So it allows you to be able to use trust merger and assignment. You know, learning how to assign rights, titles, and interests, like what Christian Walters was saying, assigning the interest, assigning the title to the debt to certain people. You know, that changes the relationship and it changes the liability. Knowing how to properly assign the liability in the proper method, that's how it gets handled. I mean, the rehypothecation will handle, yeah, I mean, they're going to fall at some point. It's already talked about in Scripture. The Roman Republic is the United States of America, you know. So, you know, a new kingdom will be set up. It'll be up there. So, yeah. But yeah, so that's really what it is. It's knowing how to properly assign the liability and handle the liability of the trust to where the trust, that debt is essentially either discharged, it's like entirely, or extinguished, and you are no longer liable, and it's no longer considered your debt. So, you know, that's how it goes there. Like I said, you know, that's where I differ from a lot of people. I like what a lot of people, certain people teach. You know, Amir Law. I haven't seen what he talks about in private because he charges a decent, fair amount. But with the things that he shared in the public, I do like a lot of them. I do like them. You know, he's talked about a lot of the same things Christian Walters has talked about. He's talked about a lot of the same things that Gene Keating has talked about. Well, in some aspects, Gene Keating was more debtor creditor, but yeah. And like I said, I've paid attention to David Clarence, Scroll, and people like that. Like, who else? David Wynn-Miller was cool for some bits of information, but like I said, he goes down a whole different rabbit hole. And yeah, so it's just a different type of banking, different way to manage relationships. You're saying who is in World Health Organization, or like who is in what party? I'm not sure what you mean, RT. It's kind of a blank one there. Yeah. Like I said, put y'all's comments and questions in there. I wouldn't leave any stone unturned, like, seriously. I know, you know, especially when I was learning all this stuff myself and, you know, studying, and everybody still thought I was wild and off the rails. Like, there were so few people that I could ask or even talk to about this. So if I can help to mitigate that even a little bit, I'd be grateful. Who? Teachers? Oh, you're talking about like who to study from, or like who I studied from? Like, if you're talking about who to, well, I mentioned several people. I mentioned David Clarence, Scroll. I think it's SCHROLO. David Clarence, CLARENCE, I think. He talked about estates and the executor office. That's just something that he talks about, although, you know, not every process of his I've touched on. I've looked at the letter, the executor letter, but he did his own thing. He reclassified himself under NATO, so his process doesn't really work anymore. he was an attorney as well. So there's also, like I said, Gene Keating. Gene Keating is an excellent resource. Negative Averment, bid bond, performance bond, and payment bonds. That's where I found out a lot about that. Gene Keating prison treaties, creditors and their bonds, affidavit of Walker Todd, modern money mechanics, that type of thing. Christian Walters was mainly like treatise on the law of trusts by Lewin, 1888, and that was the White Trust. You got Gibson, Suits and Chancery. You got what else? You got Gilbert's Law Summaries. You got Corpus Juris Secundum, Book 90 on trusts. You got restatements on the law of trusts, the second and the third restatements. You got was like C.W. David Clarence wasn't quite like Christian Walters, not anywhere near to the same degree, but he helps you to understand like kind of the importance of the import of the executor office. David Clarence did, and that's why like his stuff is important. Like I said, I did the letter and it doesn't work. Like you'd have to reclassify everything, get the crazy level status with the NATO and all that, and I don't even. That's a whole. I think he said that was a whole loophole that he got through, and it never really worked again, like, because they shut that out. You are supposed to get recognized as your own nation, but like I said, I'm doing everything through the court. All of the roads lead to court anyway, because the only way you're going to enforce a note anyway is going to court. So that's why I was talking about that. But there's a number of different resources you can use to study. Like there's Thompson's Dictionary of banking. There's Black's Law, Bouvier's. Yeah, hierarchy of office. Yeah, he's the one that talks about estate. The executor office is the highest office, but you got to know how to handle the relationship according to the relationship itself, which is why you need to know a little bit about several different ones: trust law, estate law, administrative law, administrative process, service of process, court process, how courts operate, just general, plaintiff, defendant, judge, bailiff. Clerk's praxis is the one that details how the civil offices or civil courts function. Hierarchy of office map. I don't know if there's necessarily a map. That'd be something I'd have to like draw up, and it's something I can do, but I gotta write down. I'll take a screenshot. I'll get to it later. But yeah, that's something that I can't like directly just reference off the top because I don't have one. I've just had to study a whole bunch. That's how I know what certain things are. But if you had to, going over it, you have estate law, then you have trust law, which really two halves of the same whole. Below that is, I don't even know, the administrative law, because administrators fall under that. And then under administrators it'd be it'd be a bunch of debtor-creditor type stuff, and then you get the whole hierarchy of the modern society and modern legal system, and that's why it's just a giant mud pit, really, once you get that low. But I'll see about what I can do. Yeah, it was a good question though. I'll definitely. The other thing is too, I'm working on a book, so I've been super busy. I've had a bunch of trusts to, do and fill out for people. I've had consultations where I've been helping people discharge certain things, and then I've had these classes go on, and then I've had a bunch of people asking me questions, and I'm doing my best. I'm getting back into the swing of things. Like I said, we're just working on getting used to it again. So yeah, just bear with me. Like I got a full plate. And like I said, what I'm gonna be doing more so in the future is I'm moving completely away from Patreon. So I'm gonna have the signal, so just like I said, just email me, and you know, we can get that handled, and you know, I can add you in there. And like I said, donations for that are just, you know, I'm gonna do like $25 a month just to cover just, you know, fees and basically just operating the entire the group and just maintaining it. Yeah. Well, the judge is presumed to be administrator or executor de santoy. So they push you into the trustee and breach of trust as defendant. I tuned in, but wanted to say, hey, what's going on, Christine? Yeah, I've been busy. I've been very busy. Yeah. I'm grateful. I'm not upset. I'm just, yeah, it's a lot sometimes. So, but yeah. Yeah, I'll have that book out some point. I'm gonna do my best. I've been fitting it and getting in a couple pages here and there, writing it whenever I can, in between everything. So I'll probably put it in there. So, any other questions on relationships? Things like that, managing the interactions or the transaction from the start or anything like that? Shoot, just any questions at all? Like I said, I'm grateful for everybody tuning in. There's been a lot of good questions. Because I know that, like, there's a lot of different aspects to it, and you know, it does seem like kind of like a moving kaleidoscope at first, but once you start taking the time, like you say, okay, I'm gonna understand this aspect of it. Now you have, and that moving kaleidoscope, now you have one solid piece that doesn't move, and then you know, you kind of add to it, and before you know it, it's not so much a kaleidoscope. You're just seeing the bits and pieces moving in a machine. Then you see the gears turning, you see the wheels moving, and the operation of everything in its natural order. And then after you know the parties and what they're supposed to do, you know where everything is going haywire. So it's not bad. It gets way better, believe me. My head was spinning all the time when I first started this. I was like, say what now? They do what now? And this and that and this, and I was like, and they get this bond and this goes on the markets and all this. How is this possible? Like, so yeah, they need directives. Yeah, they do, because honestly, they gave the people the power. The people always had the power. So, you know, it's knowing how much power you have over yourself, and knowing that, you know, you can correct your mistakes. You can't change what you can't accept. So you have to accept your mistakes and flaws and correct them and move past them. But yeah, bank president, it depends on, I don't know. They would be able to give you the details on a lot of things, but remember, those people are just in the public. They're on a higher level in the public, but they're still not out. Not most of them. So, but yeah, you could definitely find out some stuff from a banker, you know, the CFO or something like that. Dorothy? You talking about Wizard of Oz? Wizard of Oz is definitely like, Yeah, I mean, the Wizard of Oz was a wizard of ounces of gold bricks on the yellow brick road, dealing with the Tin Man, the Tin tax identification number, and the Straw Man, the account, and the Cowardly Lion, the one missing a heart. That's amazing. That's an amazing analogy. Well, you know that the DNA you can directly save digital programming to the DNA code. That's what they did with the vaccines. They have mRNA altering substances in those infusions, and that's what was changing people's DNAs. They're no longer considered Homo sapiens. They are considered Homo borgenesis, and I'm not making that up. Like, that's literally what they are considered. They're considered property of the manufacturers of those jabs, and that they're no longer considered the same. Graphene oxide, all that type of stuff. Heavy metals, mercury, aluminum, lead, you name it. And we always had the power. They just didn't want us to know it. That's why they distract you. Anything of substance, they don't want you to think about. They want you to think about vanity, things of naught, distractions, all types of stuff. Yeah. What are they considered? Could you repeat that? Oh, Homo, Borg, as in cyborg, and Genesis. Homo Borg Genesis. I didn't make that up. It's literally what they call it. Whether it's widespread and in a lot of articles, that I can't say. I haven't looked it up in a long time. But when I did find it, that's what they called it. There's been certain court cases that have detailed certain things that haven't gotten anywhere. And, they've talked about nanotechnology. They've talked about, robotic bees and insects. They've talked about cybernetic birds and things like that. They've talked about a great deal of things. Been hearing all about that. To be honest, I don't keep up with a lot of those these celebrities and all that. I really just don't. I've been hearing about it. It's been a big distraction, but I'm not really terribly worried about that. I've been paying more attention to the ports and shutting down, and the MLA the International Longshoremen Association and the U.S. military, U.S. Marine, whatever it is, USCMA or something like that. The military, the Marine Alliance, Maritime Alliance, excuse me. That's what I've been paying more attention to. When that shuts down, global commerce shuts down. Anything international, import, export outside the continent gets shut down. It's going to make everything go back to grassroots and local again. It's going to shut a lot of stuff off. So that's what I've been paying attention more to. That and the markets. I haven't been paying attention to as much about the scandals. Not as much. Cyborg, yep. Cybernetic organism. Yep. That's what they are. And it's unfortunate, but people's DNAs are being altered. They're going to start offering implants and cybernetic things. That's why they got anime and things like that called Ghost in the Shell, where they literally got so many cybernetic pieces that they forgot what it's like to feel. And I get it. My parents took them. I'm pretty sure my sister did too. I didn't ask, but it's at a point where people are liable for their own decisions. If they want to do that, you just got to let them make their own decisions. You got to move on. Because being honest, everything I've heard is the people that take it within 2 to 10 years will be gone. And the other portion of it is there's a kill switch inside that when that thing gets activated via the right frequencies, it's going to turn people into zombies. They're going to shut down 90% of brain function and leave only like hunger and certain base motor functions, which is going to turn people into essentially walking corpses. Hungry walking corpses. So oh, I see what you're saying. Well, the only way they can do it is alteration and alchemy, through alchemy. Alteration and modification through, yeah, I see what you're saying. Man, honestly, the only thing you can do is be grateful for the one that didn't. I know it sucks, but you can't change the past. And there's no use crying over it because you still got to live yourself. And I'm not saying it like that to be harsh. I'm just saying, like, I've spent my fair share of time. Like, I warned my parents for 1.5 years, and then they thought I was crazy and all this. So I mean, what could I do? Like, they did it to themselves. So believe me, I'm the black sheep of my family. I already understand. Yeah, that's how it is, Nothing you can do, but and then honestly, what this forces a lot of people to do is it's going to force a lot of smaller communities being built up based on common ideals, not this common good BS, based on private interests and elite interests. I'm talking, people that actually agree on similar things and ideologies and things like that and beliefs. So. Yeah. Well, like I said, all you can do is just meet up with the people that are with like mind. This is a kind of a turning point in society and history where the old ways, the old society is falling apart. The Roman Republic is falling because the same way the image, that rock, and the dream of Nebuchadnezzar smote the image of Nebuchadnezzar. That same rock in the dream became a kingdom that will never be removed. And that's the same kingdom that's being organized in these last days. So, based on like mindedness. Yeah. And roots run deep is going to be like that. I mean, that's what, when it talks about in the scripture, like sifting through the nations, like with the sieve of vanity. That's what it is. Sifting through, when it says in Isaiah, I will take 1 from a city and 2 from a family. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to be that many. They call it a remnant for a reason, because those few last drops at the bottom of a can or a bottom of a bottle, that's the remnant, not the whole contents. The remnant at the bottom. So, yeah. I'm sorry to hear that, Christine. I'm sorry. It's not. It really is unfortunate, but like I said, I've mulled over it for years, and ultimately, the only thing it did is bring me down. So I had to just kind of do my own thing. Find the people that are of similar minds. I'm grateful too. Like I said, I spent many years. I've been doing this for 5 years, and it's been a lonely path, but like I said, I'm grateful for the people that do their due diligence and study, because I put in a lot of late nights and a lot of hard work, and so like I said, I'm grateful to be around still. I could have been taken out a long time ago, but the only reason I'm still here is because I have a purpose, and the Most High has graciously allowed me to see this day. So, absolutely. And then like I said, it's gonna get wilder too. I mean, once things really start coming down and there's the Gog and Magog war, it'll get wilder. But That's why you're supposed to settle these accounts now. Get the resources you need and get up on out of here, because there ain't gonna be too much left after that. Like I said, Matrix and Terminator were documentaries. They were not science fiction. They already have that technology out in the public. They already have androids and clones and all types of stuff in the public. It's already been out there in the movies. They clone Tyrone, iRobot, Ghost in the Shell, all types of stuff. So the only thing you can do is prepare. Any other questions? If Helena hadn't had nothing to say, I doubt anyone but a few do. Anyone but a few do. Sheesh. David, which Helen are you referring to? Is that from a book? Like a reference from a book? I apologize, I'm not familiar with the reference. Yeah. Like I said, people keep thinking you can get these accounts and you can do whatever and still be living the system and all that. Like, that is not the point. That is not the point. Because you're not going to be able to do that for very long. And there's going to be a whole lot of stuff happening. Like I said, there's certain things you got to do. Like, that hurricane. Yeah. That hurricane is wild. I mean, I know that they got HARP and other technologies and other things like that. But there are certain things that are just supposed to happen. You got the biolab, down in Conyers, Georgia. Plumes of smoke coming up, all of that. I do private consultations, yeah. I do. I set up private trusts. I help, depending on certain other things, like discharging to certain things. I do case by case basis. I see whether or not I can help first. But yeah, I do prepare paperwork, certain things like that. Just check out my website. I have it in the last post on YouTube, and I have my information on there, like the PayPal and Venmo, Cashapp. And like I said, I don't charge for the first 30 minutes, but like I do charge for like the $75 an hour thereafter, just because I've been quite busy, to be honest. But yeah, let me know. Just fill out that contact form on my site, and then I'll reach out to you, and we'll work out something. A time we can talk about it. Only the time I don't do anything is Saturdays, so that's it. So that was my day of rest, because the Sabbath got changed from Saturday to Sunday. So I'm not trying to charge people a fortune. I'm only really I just need to cover my time, really. My time is my most valuable resource. Like, I realize that everybody's going through it, and I got stuff I deal with too. My situation ain't ideal, but I really just want to help people, because I know that there's plenty of people out here that don't know how to do a lot of this stuff that I know how to do. I know I've gotten results, using several different methods and stuff like that. So, like I said, I'll have more proof here in the future. I've been working and doing certain things, but right now I'm just doing what I can. So The only reason I charge $250 for the trust is because it takes me like 4 or 5 hours to put together. And everybody that has gotten one and I'm still working on it, I'm getting to it. Believe me, I am. So yeah, I'm doing everything the best I can. Thank you, one wise lady. I'm grateful. So yeah, because I really don't see the point in charging people thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars if you got millions and billions of funds already settled in the private. It don't make sense to me. I've never understood that. That's another thing too. Be careful about people that are asking for a non-disclosure agreement, because there's really no reason. None of this stuff is really private, not the knowledge of it. So, you're supposed to be, you can find all of this stuff on the public record, really, how to do it, all this type of stuff. So there's no reason to have sign an NDA or anything like that. Like, what they got is not so private that you have to, sign that type of agreement. So, be wary and cautious about people asking for that. Because if they scam you and do something else, they'll try to hold that NDA against you. Unless you know how to properly allege that it was fraud and this and that, like, the court's going to uphold it because they have private interests. So, be wary and cognizant of that. So yeah, I do private consultations. I'm just, like I said, just fill in the contact information. But yeah, while I got everybody here, like I said, any questions, anybody got anything in regards to, no, there's no reason to. There's none whatsoever to sign an NDA. I don't care if it's a court. I don't care if it's anybody in the government. There's no reason. All of it's public record, and you can allege that. I'm working on a video. About that, but I've been a little busy. I'm getting to it, but I was asking ChatGPT, can an NDA agreement be voided out and nullified by a court if it is to conceal fraud, to conceal, the defrauding of interest, or, to prevent people in the public from finding out information that they're already entitled to that's already in the public. And it said yes. Those NDAs can be nullified and done that and gave it some court cases. So the only real times that, you have to be careful about it is if you were somebody working in the government and you were under the NDA, and that's when it's considered state secret information, because the source of the trade secret comes from the state, which imposes a trust, because you were entrusted with those trade secrets. Now, if you find out in the public and you're not working for the government, it's quite different. So, yeah, that's the thing that, yeah. Exactly, no. But you see, it's not just no, you got to know what to prove. Because these people, being honest, there's some dangerous people out there. And some of them are in high places. But that's why you got to know how to speak properly. When to speak and how to speak. If you can articulate the truth and be able to prove what you say, you can go a long, long way. You can get wherever you need to. As long as you got clean hands. Man, has reared its solar head. Well, like I said, I serve the Most High, so I'm thankful and grateful the Most High has allowed me to see this day. And the only reason my life continues is because of the graciousness and the mercies of the Most High. That's the only reason. So, yeah. Because there's been a lot of times when I've been wondering why I was even doing this, and it wasn't until recently that I kind of started to see why. So, anybody have any other questions? Yeah, I've been grateful to have met some good people along the way, and I'm very grateful for that. Because that's another thing too. Like, I know this is a lonely road, but you do meet the right people. Like, as long as you keep, that works. That works. All right. Like I said, I have to answer to my creator. Humility is before honor. Yeah, you're right. Roots run deep. You're right. Because that's the biggest lie that they ever done told about relationships in general. Man, like, like, whether it be quote unquote friends, as a, or marriage, anything. Because they said opposites attract. In some instances, yeah, but for the most part, like attracts like. Birds of a feather flock together. That's the truth. And that goes along with the 7 spiritual laws of success. That's a book I highly recommend people read, because I was sitting there based on a lot of the programming and other things that unfortunately my parents and society had taught me, thinking I was doing what was right, and it was like I was getting mad at myself because I didn't know how the universe works. And that book taught me a lot. That book taught me a whole lot. Yeah, so like I said, it's like something Chopra or something like that. I think it's yeah, it is, and that's one of that like I said. Let me see. I'm gonna pull it up because I think I have it in my drive. So, is it that one? Success. If I have it in here. Where'd it go? Sheesh. There it is. It's this book by Deepak Chopra, The 7 Laws. And this book I highly recommend. So the 7 laws are the law of pure potentiality, the law of giving, the law of karma or cause and effect, the law of least effort, the law of intention and desire, the law of detachment, the law of dharma or purpose in life, and then yeah. So those are the 7 spiritual laws. Pages, and some is like a little bit longer because they might have illustrations in it, but it's not. I haven't seen it over 100 pages. Like, it's a very easy read, but it's very profound. It had a lot of keys that made me see life in a different way. Instead of being the body, you are in the body. You are the consciousness. You don't just have a mind. You are the mind. this is something that, like I said, I recommend highly. Like, everyone read this. Like, it's not hard, you know, and this is all over. Like, you know, a lot of this stuff is just in the public domain. Like, I'm not trying to hide it. I'm not trying to gatekeep it. Like, you know, the stuff I talk about, you can just a lot of it you can just Google search and find it a lot of times. Like I said, the only reason I compiled it was just basically for convenience. Yeah. So, you know, like it says, all of creation, everything that exists in the physical world is the result of the unmanifest, transforming itself to the manifest. Everything that we behold comes from the unknown. Our physical body, physical universe, anything and everything that we can perceive through our senses is the transformation of the unmanifest, unknown, and invisible into the manifest, known, visible. So, you know, yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, I'm not going to read it all, but it's not a long read. Like I said, I highly, highly, highly recommend reading that book. Like, because it almost, like, things almost don't work if you don't know those laws. And like I said, I was really down, like really, really, really down. So my associate, like, kind of put that book in front of my face, and he told me a couple times. I was telling him, like, look, man, I'm feeling like down, tired, like I'm tired of the society being the way it is. Like, I'm ready for a change and all this. And he kept telling me, he was like, man, you need to read this book. Like, you need to, like, because it's about the mentality, how you view it, your perspective. Like he's like, I'm telling you, this is not a long read. You need to read it. And I'm like, all right. So he finally got me to read it. I read it. My whole, like, my life changed, like, just instantly. Like, yeah. That, I mean, it's one of the top books, like, that I would recommend to just about anybody. Well, number one, the Torah and the Tanakh, the Old Testament, the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, Book of Jubilees, the Apocrypha and the 1611 KJV, Esdras, all four of them, the Wisdom of Solomon, especially, like, in Scripture and other things, the Wisdom of Solomon, Psalms, Proverbs, Isaiah, Exodus. You know, Psalms has gotten me through a lot of hard times. Yeah, things like that. Like, as far as other books, outside the Scriptures, like, I'm trying to think. What other books have I've read a lot of them, but most of them have been in the law. You know, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's my favorite book, but I kept seeing it. Like, I saw it on the wall in the library not too long ago, and certain other things. Like, I grew up reading certain things, like, it was like Hatchet by Gary Paulson. It's kind of like, I know, like a teenager, you know, a kid more tuned to, like, children and stuff like that. It taught me a little, you know, mentality of, like, resourcefulness and stuff. But I mean, I had a different upbringing. Like I said, I was going to, like, a homeschool co-op where I'd go to school, like, one day a week. I was doing schoolwork the rest of the time, you know, at home. And like I said, I had, you know, teachers that were subject matter experts. So, like, my English teacher, for one, she talked about Fahrenheit 451. So I had to read that, Scarlet Letter. You know, some books were kind of programming and stuff like that, but you know, I was recommended the 1984, the George Orwell. I haven't read it, although I need to go back and watch that movie because it would be easier than reading the book for me right now. Somebody in the class recommended that. But yeah, I think it'll come to me later. Yeah. I read a lot of, like, the modern novels, like, you know, absolutely, John. I read a lot of the modern novels growing up. Like, fortunately, I didn't know better. I read the Harry Potter books. I read the I read the Hunger Games. I've read the Maze Runner. I've read a lot of those types things, and those were already marketed towards teaching the children and other things like that in a way that they don't understand what's going on, but they're being told with full disclosure in a way that attempts to keep the spell going. So it didn't work with me though. But yeah, those are the type of things that I grew up reading. I grew up reading a lot of that type of stuff. But yeah, as far as like fictional books and things like that, or even just other books, like, I mean, that's, for the most part, that's probably one of my favorite books, is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And if I got, any others, I was always kind of a movie guy, to be honest. That's really, I didn't read as much as I could have when I was younger. I was also really busy growing up. But yeah. I read a lot of instruction manuals. How about movies as for ones helping grasp on law and legal? Absolutely. There's one I keep harping on. It's called C, Money of Soul and Possibility. It's a Japanese anime. It's real short. It's like 11 episodes and 20 minutes apiece. So it comes out to like 2 or 3 hours. But that one tells everything from redemption, from collateral to futures, to commodity futures contracts, to trading on the markets, to redemption of collateral, which is the main theme of the movie or the series. That one's like one of the biggest by far. There's The Big Short with was it Ryan Gosling? I think, yeah. And that one. There's a couple other trading movies like that. Mr. Nobody is one that kind of wakes you up. Soul, that Disney movie, Disney Pixar movie, is another one. Spirited Away, Studio Ghibli. They have an English version of that too. The Boy and the Heron talks about the birth registration process as well. The Boy and the Beast is another one. I'm pretty sure they have an English dubbed version. That's good. I'm glad. What'd you read? What'd you watch, Christine? I'm kind of curious. I know I watch a lot of movies that are not commonly known. I mean, some of them are and some of them aren't. But, But yeah. Let me see what other movies. There's a bunch of them. Let me see. Big Short, I got that. I mean, you know about Matrix and Terminator and all that. Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell. I don't know if it was I think it was a movie. Yeah, I think it was a movie. Ghost in the Shell was another Japanese anime. They put it in the cartoons for a reason, because it hits the subconscious different. And you have to have an open mind like that of a child to be able to see what they're saying in symbology and analogies. That's why they do that. When people have it in live action, it hits the subconscious much harder. And it kind of wakes people up far more. So that's the reason they do it in cartoons. Like I said, I've watched a bunch called Bleach. Bleach was one. What else? Oh, Kingdom Hearts was a video game. If you watch the cutscenes, like they call them cutscene movies on YouTube. What? Oh, you had to go and say it, Michael. What? Okay. Yo, you have to tell me about that later, Michael. Because I'm telling you, I grew up, I didn't even know about anime. I couldn't find Bleach to watch. You just couldn't get into it, or you couldn't find it? Because I know how to find it. Believe me, it don't cost nothing. Yo, Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts, I had recoded growing up. I played that, John. I almost beat it. But I got so upset with the thing at the end that it just was like, I just let it go at that point. But I got the message. And then I went back and I watched all the cutscenes from all the video games. Oh my, they talk about, because it's written in Japanese and Latin. Sora is the air, or the air. He represents the sky, or the law of the air. Kairi means sea, the law of the sea, the law of the water. Riku means land, the law of the land, or yeah. And then you have like a couple other things. You have Terra, which is earth, Ventus, which is wind, Aqua, water. These are all different characters that they portray. Oh, I can help you with that. Just like I said, send me an email, Christine. I don't worry about that part. What was the answer on recommended reading? Like I said, seven spiritual laws of success. That's like, as far as like a must read, like probably one of the most number one, like you gotta read type things outside of scripture. That's it. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. And that is like one of the most amazing books. Alright, that sounds good, Christine. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else have I watched. I've read a few things. Like I said, they've mainly been like, I don't know, I've read a lot of like documents and like different things like that. Like that's where I've read the most as far as books. Like, but I spent a lot of time watching anime. That's growing up, because I was always like so bogged down with schoolwork and all that, because my parents wanted me to go to college, which I never did. And I never wanted to do it, so I ended up always wanted to escape. So yeah, that's why I took to anime so much, because I always took to the ones where there was always this super overpowered main character that always did everything uprightly and always fought against evil. So I just really took to that. Dang, okay, that makes sense. Alright, I'll be mindful of that. Although, I hope that's not, dang, sheesh. But yeah, as far as like, what other shows have I watched that are like that? So from what is that a movie? Dang. Dang, I don't know. What was the first Japanese movie to see? Oh, it's not SEA. It's the letter C. C as in Charlie. And then it's Money of Soul and Possibility. The C, it says C, Money of Soul and Possibility. And it's referencing like control, collateral, contract, conversion. It mentions those as themes of the. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. And it's like 11 episodes. It came out in 2011, and they have an English dubbed version of it. What else? There is The Boy and the Heron, The Boy and the Beast, Spirited Away. Spirited Away is another one. So yeah, absolutely, David. Absolutely. Yes, thank you, one wise lady. That's it. So, like I said, that's one of the top recommended ones as far as like you know, they plainly state it. He's like the Masakaki, or the bank, the representative of the Bank of Midas. He's like, yeah, well, we'll tender your future and hold it as collateral for you to borrow against. It's like, won't that, take years off my life? Well, that might be a side effect, yes. The Spirited Away, absolutely. There's so many from Studio Ghibli, so many. You got Tales from Earthsea that talks about the true name. Tales from Earthsea. If you want to know about true names and why you don't give up your true name, the Tales from Earthsea is it. And that's Earthsea, one word. There's a whole bunch of them. Like, trying to think, what else is there? Agartha. There's the children who there's the children who chase lost voices. That talks about Agartha, Shambhala, the inner earth, the hollow earth. There's, what else? I'm trying to think. I'm gonna have to bust out my movie list some other time. Oh, the Dark City. I think the Dark City is one of them. Let me see. What is it? Yes, Earthsea. Yeah. Oh, okay. Huh. I haven't gotten into a lot of silent films, to be honest with you. This one was good. 13th Floor was good too. Alright. This was a wild one. Alright, that's good to know. Okay, so it was the first. Okay, alright. Well, if it's that good, I might have to check it out. I'll see. What else have I seen? I've seen, like, oh my word, I just remembered, Promised Neverland. Oh my. Yeah, you want to know what's happening? Word for word, literal. This isn't no exaggeration of life. This is exactly what they do. You want to know what's going on? Watch this anime. Okay. Anime? It's not just a manga, it's an anime. Animated series. So this cartoon, I'm telling you, you watch the English dub, this is no joke. This is exactly what they do, with no exaggeration. And this is not, this is not this is a very serious show. Yeah, that's a very important one. What else? There's I'm thinking. Yeah, that one, I'm telling you. If you want to know what's going on, see Money, a Soul, Impossibility, and Promised Neverland. You'll be rearing to get your papers done. Believe me when I tell you. What else? Like Promised Neverland. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah. Attack on Titan, that was one of them. That was legitimate. It said it was set in the mid 1800s, and I believe that. Death Note was a morbid one, although it tells you what the birth certificate is. It's pretty morbid. I don't recommend watching it unless you got the stomach for it. I mean, Made in Abyss, this is not a child show. This is no way, and no way a child show at all. There's a movie that goes, Dawn of the Deep Soul or something like that, that goes along with it. That talks about what they do to children. Not pleasant, but it tells the truth. Demon Slayer, this is legit. This is legitimate. Like, I like that. Parasite tells you what's going on. What else? Hunter x Hunter tells you what's going on, although that's a bit long, but it does tell you about the different statuses, like Freemason, like certain licenses that they give you, or different like credentials that you can get past the public realm. Code Geass. This is when they talk about Britannia. So if you want to know about Britannia and how it was, there, Code Geass is it. But yeah, there's a lot of anime. I've watched quite a bit of them. I mean, that's where, like I said, I had an affinity towards them, just because I was in a dark place growing up. So I always wanted to see somebody make it out. What's going on there? So yeah, no, as far as that goes, that's really what's going on. Let me see, movies.
Are you thirsty?
No, I'm good though. Thank you. Let me see, movies. Dang. Is it Margin Call? I think it's Margin Call. Have you seen Spotlight? Nemesis? I don't know if I've seen that anime. I haven't seen Spotlight. I might have to check that out. Although, like I said, it's kind of difficult sometimes to watch movies. There is one called, what was it called? The Laundromat. The Laundromat is what this is kind of a comedy, but it's telling the truth. I watched it recently and stopped watching anything like 5 years ago. But you might have to watch a couple things, Yeah, I'm not saying you gotta watch everything, but it'll give you a brief idea what's going on. Dang. There's a few of them. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Let me see. Yeah, Laundromat was wild funny. When I found that out, I was like, what? So but yeah, any other questions? You want any more recommendations? Whatever you want to talk about. Just let me know. Let me look up Nemesis, like y'all said. Oh, is this Beyblade? Oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, Tula Vru. I never did watch this one. Yeah. Any other questions though? Really, anything with regards to the truth? Did you say I have a website? Yes, I do. My website, I put a post on YouTube that my link was at the bottom, I think. It said something like right after consultations. It said there's my link there. And I know I like that my link, there's also a link tree that has my website on there too. So if you look on there, you should find it. It's that last post that I made earlier today on YouTube. I moved, took a weed, had a bad fall, broke my toe, then it floated in one's place. Only know my voice. Ay, that's crazy. I'm sorry to hear that. Absolutely. So, like I said, I'm gonna have. Yep, Michael, you're absolutely right. I really do think it's a delusion. Like I said, I study scripture more than a lot more, like, more so than this whole republic idea. And yes, they are like going off of current operation of laws and certain things, but what does it matter if the entire thing is prophesied for destruction? Rome was one of the pieces of the statue of Nebuchadnezzar in the dream in Daniel. Greek and Rome were both part of that because they both administered from Babylon. Babylon is the city in New York, so it's representing New York. Yeah, I really do believe that they're not going to be able to restore the republic. Like, there's no point, because the republic that it should have, because even that was just a Roman republic, so Rome will fall. It never did fall, but it will now, because of scripture. Everything happens according to the scriptures, whether anybody thinks it does or not. So they will, I do believe, roots, but it'll be a morbid one. What are you watching? What you talking about, David? Oh, I was just curious. You talk about Death Note or something? Because if that's the case, I believe that. Yeah. Because like once you start watching them and certain things like that, certain movies, you're like your eyes just open, and your entire vision changes. Oh. Yeah, you're not wrong. If they do, it's not gonna be the same level, and it's gonna be. It's not gonna be like what they had going on now. The only reason the Republic and all these things were held power for so long is because it was under the rule of Babylon. Babylon was given the rule of kingdom from Nebuchadnezzar till now. That's why those scriptures say that like they did. It happened a lot sooner than people think. But yeah, everything would be tokenized, but that's why it forces people off the grid. You either want to be part of the quantum financial system, which means your name is then put in quantum entanglement in a quantum computer, meaning they control everything that you do via quantum mechanics and quantum computers. Like I said, you want to know how scary that is? Start researching quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement. You'll find out real quick. Once people get the name entangled in certain things, it'll change you as a creature. Sheesh, David, man. Yeah, that's wild though. Yeah. Latin for counted. Yeah, that's really what it is. It's the spells, the quantum. Yeah, how much in Latin? You're right. Because they're just gonna. Because what it does is it accounts for both the negative and the positive version of something. The not and the is and the is not at the same time. And it superimposes two different states at the same time and causes people to be in permanent limbo. You always got a choice. You just got to figure out how to get there. It's not a dead language. In scripture, they talk about how counting certain things are counted to the living and counted to the dead. It's a tool of measurement. It's not a bad thing. Dang, who hit that? Sheesh. But yeah, it's not all bad. They just got everybody used to hating what's really good and when it's being misused. That's the real thing. Oh, okay. Wait, Mandela effect? Is that the Mandela effect? I believe so. Quantum entanglement. Let's just say, for example, something is quantumly entangled with a symbol or key. For example, a name. And the name, which is the representation of the soul, is then quantumly entangled into some type of record or digitized thing in a quantum computer. A quantum computer it's not like a classical computer where it's just ones and zeros. It accounts for both the 1 and the 0 in the same position, and it moves the whole thing. It's essentially Pandora's box. And what it does is you can erase things from existence like that. That's why certain things have been disappearing. That's why certain people have been disappearing. That's why 2020 happened. A lot of people disappeared for other reasons than people think. And I think it's mainly because of quantum systems. Yeah. Money is accounting entries. Yeah, it is. But money is more than accounting entries. Money is a means of exchange. It's a measure of spiritual energy. Labor, life, etc. That's what it is. It's not bad when you understand its important meaning. It's when it's being misused or used to impose wicked obligations that it becomes negative or non-beneficial. That's the main difference there. Because, if you understand, what it's really there for, it's not a bad thing. You still need it. You have to have some means of accounting or exchange between parties, even in upright societies. But, it's the lack of knowledge that really causes a lot of that stuff. Not knowing a bunch of different means. If you knew you had 10 different means to pay somebody and you only thought you had one, you'd feel pretty upset and enslaved if there was you didn't know there was 9 other ways to pay somebody. But that's exactly what they've done in society today. Right, it's a medium of exchange. That's all it is. The problem was when they took it off of a lawful means and medium of exchange, which is gold and silver, or a substance equivalent to that. And that's when things went haywire. But like I said, this has been a giant captivity. Labor for compensation, yeah. Right. And then, and that's the thing, is they're defrauding people that are laboring. We're not getting real substance. So you're not really getting paid anything and you're not making anything. So it's like I said, it's convict leasing. Convict leasing, which is the renting or leasing of slaves or convicts in the mines. What are they mining for? Personal information. So they can get at your estate and have you work to death and take your claim in your estate. That's what Bitcoin is. That's what a lot of those other things, because they're mining personal information off of the blockchain. That's what it is. Yep. The living word versus the quantum entangled stable static word. Quantum entanglable static word. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The living word versus the dead language. The dead language is spell binding and stuff like that. That's why it's called dead language, Latin. Yeah, ongoing bankruptcies are not favorable to gold and silver, no. Yeah. Peonage. It is peonage. It absolutely is. It's peonage, it's personage, it's a bunch of other things, but most importantly, it goes back to scripture. Under Proverbs 6, it's suretyship. And Leviticus 6, it's suretyship and pledging. Guarantee, bonds. Your word is your bond. That's why it still stands. It's fraudulent, it's wicked, it's all these different types of things, but you got to make good your word. That's why. So you got to be careful what you obligate yourself to. Yeah, it really is slavery. But that's why I can't talk about certain things, like certain discharging of debts and other things. Like I said, I could talk about it all day in the private. Can't talk about it in the public. It's the first thing they go to is to say, oh, you're messing with our commercial interests, blah, blah, blah. He's causing us harm to our business, when their business was enslaving entire nations of people. Yeah, promises. Broken promises and promises to pay. That's what they give out. That's all their word is good for, just a promise. A promise that'll never be kept. That's why they always sell the note. Sheesh. Yeah, it's really like that. I mean, and like I said, once you get out, you get the funds. Yeah, it won't mess. It might not be gold and silver, but you can get the funds and all that stuff, and go get assets. And you can technically buy gold and silver at that point, but U.S. citizens can't have them. That's why you got to change your status. Any other questions? Yeah. And there's a very large, like, spiritual aspect to this too, because there's so many things going on in higher realms that people aren't aware of. Sheesh! Don't say that. Don't say that, one wise lady. That's crazy. Oh my way. Oh my, yay, that's crazy. 12 months in advance. Oh man. Yeah, I know it is. Believe me, I get it. Believe me, I get it. I-94. I-94 is just proof of immigration. People born here don't have to worry about it. There's FOIAs that you can do, Department of Homeland Security. Although, to be honest, they're not really giving out the answers anymore, the letters anymore. That's why you got to do certain things yourself, declare your status yourself, and make valid, provable records. Yeah, it's just, there's no, like, because with the birth certificate and all that, there's no I-94 filed, so you're never a U.S. citizen. They just presumed you are. They just called you one, and you said you were, so they held you to it. They taxed you like one too. Now if you did, I don't. Oh, you have one? I'm not exactly sure as far as the process on that. Like, you have to do certain declarations of, like, naturalization, and yeah, I don't know. Well, like I said, there's foreign trusts, there's private trusts. Thing is, your state is wherever you were born at. So part of it was transferred here, but like I said, it's still kind of wherever you were from. But you gotta kind of settle that certificate, because that certificate is like that. But you gotta be able to prove, you know, it's kind of a different thing. It's supposed to be like a deposit and settlement of that thing, but like I said, yeah. Well, sheesh, don't say that. I mean, it can always get worse, but I'm sorry to hear that. It really can always get worse, but that's why you got to be grateful for, you know, the opportunity for it to get better too. I'm just being honest, because that's part of recognizing how small, like, we as people actually are. At any time, like, the Most High can set us lower, or the Most High can lift us up, and you know, that decision is entirely, you know, within the hands of the Most High, and that's just the truth. So, but yeah, I mean, gratitude is a big key of it. Being grateful for what you do have, you know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, I'm grateful I'm still around. Like I said, there's Day Tripper in Atlanta that I like. And that's the thing too. It's like, you know, I know myself, like, I'm not normal. Never have been, never will be. But normal is considered wicked nowadays. So why would you want to be like that? And everybody on here is, you know, here for a reason. You know, you didn't make it here by accident. So, you know, and like, everybody here has a purpose. Like, because every nation is going to serve the Most High. So, like, every nation is, you know, really, like, especially the people that find this stuff out, like, are the representatives and, like, the people set up to feed, you know, their houses, their nations. You know, so it's, yeah. Because here's the thing, people like to manipulate based on imagination, and that's how they manipulate entire groups of people. Because when you put people into despair, and then you offer them a dream, it's like a drug. People can't get enough of it. Because, like I said, if you don't, you know, work to make your own dreams come true, you'll spend your entire life making someone else's come true. And an action without vision is a nightmare. Action with vision is purpose. Yeah, but like I said, most people are never normal. Like, not the people finding this stuff out. If you're like this, you are most definitely an anomaly in the matrix. Like, you know, like, so the biggest thing I had to learn, especially because of my upbringing and how hard, and unfortunately, I grew up in a family where my parents thought that children were burdens, and to some extent, if you're not ready for it, they can be. But that's not the problem of the child. It's more of the attitude of the parents and the teachers. So, you know, I had a lot to unlearn. Like, I had to stop self-deprecation because, you know, I wasn't inherently trying to do it, but it was programmed because of, you know, getting around situations. So, that's one of the biggest things, is you have to be honest with yourself. You have to stay humble. Because if not, you'll be, you know, if you get proud, you'll fall. And that's not really my goal for anyone. You know. And the other thing too is, when you look up humility or humble in etymology, it means sweet. Because the sweetest fruits come from the richest soil. So that's why. But yeah, that's why they say being down to earth, being humble, being sweet. Because, you know, there's nourishment or riches there. So, you know, it's, yeah, it does take it takes a little bit of reprogramming and letting go of old limiting beliefs. Like I said, that's why I like the 7 spiritual laws of success, because I was in a very, very low place until my associate brought that to my attention. And I'm telling you, as soon as I saw it, because of how my mind works and how intuitive I am, it's like it unlocked an entire key for my whole life. Yeah, you're right, Michael. You're right. Yeah, roots run deep. That's good. That's how I was. I asked the questions that people no one could answer, so I was still left with the questions. Oh, yeah. All the judgments of the Most High are truth. Yeah, like I said, like, I really am grateful, because, you know, now, like, the best thing about going through it, honestly, is that you know that when you get to this level of knowledge, you know the best things are ahead of you. They're not behind you. So, and that's something I'm very grateful for, because they're not behind me. I know that much. I think we all did, Roots Run Deep. I think we all did. Everybody here. Yeah. Crazy though, because when one considers themselves to be the inheritors of promise, then the people all around you always call you arrogant. See, but that's what pride sees. Lucifer, pride is of the devil. Lucifer can't stand the Most High, because Lucifer wanted to be like the Most High. So, yeah, what can people do when they really see it in you? They get scared, then they're in disbelief and shock, and then they move to scorn. That's just how it goes. Because if they really acknowledge certain things, they'd have to get rid of and scrap their pride, and a lot of people can't do that. Too many people have built entire lives off of pride and ego, and when it comes crashing down, they're left with nothing, and in a far worse position had they been not proud. Yeah, same here, Roots Run Deep. Same here. Yeah, you're right, David. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I don't know about all that, one wise lady, but yeah. Any other questions? Oh yeah. I remember you telling me about that, Michael. I haven't listened to it, but I did read the lyrics. And that's the other thing that people don't understand. There's no such thing as freedom. Everything has a price. Everything has a weight and measure. Anything free comes with strings attached. That's why it's in relation to a freehold. So the thing about it is that the key is, like, you have to choose your own burden. You either choose the yoke of the Most High, or you choose the yoke of the fallen. That's really it. There's no other choices. And when you do obey the Most High, it's really not hard. You know, you get challenged and tested, but compared to what the wicked have to go through, it's nothing. But the other thing too is, do you want pain before pleasure, or do you want pleasure before pain? What you have in the end is what you get forever. Chris Stapleton. What song are you talking about? I don't know too much about Chris Stapleton. Isn't that country, you think? Country music? Let me see. I don't even know. Okay, I wasn't wrong. What is this song? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I had my whole. Yeah, there was a time when I was into country music. I've been to the Grand Ole Opry and stuff too. But I don't know. I don't listen to it as much. Stuff preferably in like 432 and solfeggio and other different. And don't get me wrong. It was a time when I listened to Alan Jackson and George Strait and Garth, or was it Brooks and Dunn. There was a time. I grew up in the South. But yeah, I don't really listen to too much of that anymore. They talk too much about drinking, blues, and bad relationships. No, music. Alright, so music is the soul of the universe, and it's also the pulse of the world. Oh, sheesh. Yeah, I never could get into rock. That was my mom's thing. I couldn't get into it. It's not my thing. Yeah, there's a lot. You have to be really careful what music you listen to. David, oh man. Hey yo. Oh man. Oh man. Yeah, like I said, I like Day Tripper. Day Tripper is a super underground musician out of Atlanta. And like I said, it's just really music you like and music you don't like. I just go after the stuff that's timeless. Yeah, a lot of them are incantations because they encode satanic rituals in the background and reverse, and when you play it backwards, it has demonic and other invocations in the songs. That's why a lot of main record labels, you all at 440 hertz. It makes you feel really weird, and it makes you feel down after a while. Look, Michael, if you look solfeggio frequencies. You know what? Hold on. Alright, I'm gonna put it out there. Haven of Harmonies. This is the other channel that I do. This is just what I do on this side, but solfeggio frequencies and stuff like that. I'm still working on it. I've been fairly busy, that's why there's not more videos here, but piano and violin music, stuff like that, solfeggios. But yeah, there's also certain ocarina, like some types of ocarina are set at 432, that you can listen to on YouTube. You know, there's certain things like that. I tend to listen to more the musicians themselves, because the musicians themselves, as long as they haven't sold out, they're usually better.